Hello and welcome to the Weekly Stuff Podcast with Jonathan Lack
and Sean Chapman.
We are here to talk about stuff, and this week specifically, we have a shit ton of stuff to talk about because it is E3.
Yes, it is the third E. All three of the E's, they're here.
It's like the 15th, 3rd E, but yes.
Yeah.
All right. So all three E's are here, and that means we have big press conferences to talk about.
Yes, we do.
From Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo,
You did it in the wrong order. It's Microsoft, EA, Ubisoft, Sony, Nintendo. Jonathan,
yes, okay.
Chronological order, please.
And that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to go through those press conferences in chronological order, talk about what went down on those, and anything from the periphery, anything that was announced outside of those that's important to what we're talking about, we'll do that. We've been covering E3 on this show for a couple years now, so you probably know the drill by now.
Yeah.
It's a 2-laptop podcast.
Yes,
I've got my laptop.
I've got my laptop.
And so we've got lots of information.
Yes.
Yes. So, Sean, I guess where I would want to start, though, is that, you know, we're 2 days in. The conference is just getting underway in terms of the show floor and whatnot.
Yeah.
But the conferences have all come by. That's the big news every year.
Yeah.
Is those things. How do you think E3 is shaping up so far?
I think it's been a decent E3. Like, it's better than... Like, I was really worried going into it that it's like... There would just be nothing, with all the games that got delayed and stuff. There was a part of me that was like... I don't know, like 2014 was looking really barren, and at least there's one shining golden star that we'll get to that I didn't realize was coming out in 2014, that is. And I think overall, a lot of the press conferences were good. They showed good stuff. There were some surprises, not as many as I would like. Like, I still don't think there's like a big new AAA IP from either Microsoft or Sony that has really caught my interest, that I'm still kind of waiting for what would basically be like the Gears of War of this generation, where Gears of War was the last generation's sort of first really big new AAA IP that was like, this is brand new, this is something that's taking full advantage of the power of this console, has new innovative ideas in terms of gameplay mechanics.
So you're saying it's not Watch Dogs?
Yes, I'm saying I want not Watch Dogs, precisely. I would like... It's like, and we will get to this with Ubisoft, but I think people are, and myself included, are getting kind of cautious of Ubisoft's bullshit with their E3 press conferences.
Yeah, well, we'll see. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, the word I've been using to describe E3 on Twitter, I was kind of live tweeting my responses to things yesterday. It's solid. I felt like everyone was solid. I feel especially
EA was not solid.
EA was not solid.
EA had a pretty pathetic...
Yes.
If you watch their press conference.
But from the big three, the first-party people who were coming out, Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, I thought... Microsoft and Sony in particular, those were two solid shows. I thought Microsoft, there's some flaws in their show to me. We'll talk about that. It was better than I was expecting on the whole. More interesting in some ways. I thought Sony's was really good, really solid. I think both companies have a lot of good games coming out, and the support seems good. And, that's baseline. That's what you want out of this, at least I feel. It feels like... And from Nintendo, too. Nintendo had a stronger showing than I would have expected in terms of getting new games out there. No big new IPs or anything, but, if you expected that from Nintendo, you were certifiably insane. So that's what they need to do, but they're not going to do it. So whatever, But in any case, it's solid. I think everyone's solid across the board, and I think, the good thing out of E3 so far is that wherever you are choosing to game, you have lots of good stuff coming your way.
Unless you're playing video games on, like, the Nokia N-Gage.
In which case, you are one hell of a hipster, man.
Yeah, like, you...
It's dedication.
That's kind of impressive in some ways that you'd be doing that.
What games did you had? I know they put Sonic on there, Sonic 1.
Yeah, there was. Yeah,
but was there anything else?
There was the N-Gage game. I don't know. Like, I think there were like 10 games that came out.
How many of our listeners even remember the N-Gage?
None.
Okay.
Exactly 0.
Okay. All right. Well, then let's go ahead and talk about some stuff. You want to get right into it, Sean?
Sure. Unless you want... Holy shit, there was a Call of Duty game came out on the N-Gage.
Really?
Like some Call of Duty 1 port developed by Nokia. So, in-house.
Okay, well, if any of our listeners, played the N-Gage or are still playing it and have any experience with that, please write to us.
Yeah, exactly.
I would like to hear about this.
Yeah.
Leave a comment.
I'm looking at... This is the last thing we'll say about the N-Gage. There were 58 N-Gage games, and that's a lot more than I thought there were.
Okay. Well, interesting.
Let's move on.
This, however, was not the E3 where the N-Gage made its triumphant return.
Nokia didn't have some sort of surprise. They didn't crash like EA's press conference. They're like, we're back, bitches! N-Gage 2!
Okay.
This time we're spelling it correctly with an E.
Sounds good. All right, let's do the Microsoft press conference. This was the big kickoff yesterday morning, Monday morning. Sean, did you watch this press conference?
Yes, I watched all the press conferences.
Okay.
Other than I did not have a chance to watch the Nintendo Direct because that was this morning.
Okay. Yeah, I did not watch all of the Microsoft one, but I followed all of it on live blogs, and I've caught up on what was important. So I pretty much saw all of it. So let's talk about it. They kicked things off with Call of Duty.
Yes, Advanced Warfare. Not Advanced Warfighter. That was a Ghost Recon game. I've made that mistake many times.
This is one of the only videos here I just did not watch because
watch it.
I read the description of the Advanced Warfare thing. I was like, that sounds like every Call of Duty video I have ever seen.
But
ever.
It's a lot more impressive. Like, you should watch it. You know, who knows? Like it looks way better than the initial reveal trailer made it seem like. There are like a handful of new like powers and stuff. You have little jump jets. You have these cool grenades that like you can cycle what the grenades do. So it's like you pull out a grenade and like hit X, and he like presses a button on the grenade, and then this little holographic display is like, oh, this is now a homing grenade. Now this is like a grenade that paints targets on your screen so you can see people through walls, or this is presumably some sort of like sticky grenade or fragmentation grenade or whatever the fuck else they wanted to be. There was a part where a dude picked up a gun and just straight up shot like a solid red laser at people, and that was pretty cool. Like, it was surprising to me with the Advanced Warfare. They're pushing the sci-fi element of it a lot more than I thought they would. You know, it's not... Like, I was expecting it to be more like something like the Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter games, which were, like, near-future technology that is basically actually, like, the war technology we have now, more or less. But this was, like... There was a part where this big swarm of, like, drone robots was flying through the air like something out of fucking, like, Avengers movie or something. It was really crazy and actually kind of cool. Like, I'm not going to, like, pre-order the thing or anything, but I'm way more interested in it than I would have been otherwise. And the game looked, like, graphically really, really good. Like, it's apparent now that it's not the same Call of Duty engine that it was before. Like, it's clear now that this is actually a next-gen Call of Duty game and not just a port like Ghost was.
Well, and that's what I've been asking for, because part of the reason I never played Ghosts, other than it got, you know, abysmal reviews, was that you just looked at it, it's like, that looks like every Call of Duty game I've ever played, and it just looks dull and drab and gray and brown.
Like, don't get me wrong, it still looks like Call of Duty. Like, it is definitely, it is a Call of Duty game, and in terms of, like, the gameplay stuff, you know, it is an E3 demo, but it was all very, like, linear, like, effective. Like, they were actually in an open space, but it was clear the player could not, like, you know, it wasn't like a Halo type of combat or anything. But they definitely, judging by that demo, they have made significant changes to the way the game plays just by, like, giving you little doodads and gadgets and shit that stuff you could not have done in Call of Duty 4.
Well, that's interesting. If it comes out and gets 10 out of 10s across the board, maybe I'll play it.
Also, you should note, because this is just something weird about having the Microsoft press conference, is it started in like a super dark place where the end of... There's a weird theme. There's a lot of dismemberment in the press conferences, where at the very end of the Call of Duty Advanced Warfare... Yeah, Advanced... I keep on thinking I'm saying the name wrong. It's like fucking Dark Knight Rises all over again. Yeah. But it's at the end of the trailer, the guy you're playing from the first-person perspective, he's like gets hit by this piece of shrapnel, and at first you're like... They're doing this thing where your character in Call of Duty dies so much now that he just dies in the fucking trailer for the game. But instead, what happens is the guy, he's getting pulled, and then you see that he's still alive, but his arm got chopped off. So, presumably he's going to have a robot arm. That would be my guess. It's actually a prequel to Bionic Commando. But.
Or every level you have to use some kind of one-armed weapon. You can only use pistols.
Exactly. Yeah. It's weird. It's weird that they put all these rifles and like this brand new laser gun for what is just a prologue mission, where from then on you can only use pistols. But yeah, it's crazy.
Very challenging Call of Duty game. But anyway, so that's so a lot of dismemberment. One thing I would ask really quickly is Microsoft kicked things off. Microsoft and Sony both kicked off with a big third-party demo.
With a big Activision game.
Yes.
That's important to note.
So we had Call of Duty, and for Sony, we had Destiny. What do you think about that? Just kind of that split division there.
You can't say division now because
it's true.
Tom Clancy's The Division.
Yes.
But yeah, I think it's, I don't know. That's kind of, at least in like recent E3s, that's kind of how it's been, that you start with some big, like last year I remember, I think it was Xbox or Microsoft's conference started with the first showing of Metal Gear Solid 5 and stuff. Yeah, like I think, personally, obviously I'm way more interested in Destiny as a game, and also having like seen just like recently X-Men Days of Future Past, it's like having Peter Dinklage, it's like, hey, that's the dude That's the guy that everybody loves from Game of Thrones, but I don't watch Game of Thrones, so I only know him from X-Men Days of Future Past. Yeah, like that's... I mean, I think they were both really good trailers, and it's cool that sci-fi is coming in now. Like, sci-fi seems to be a big thing in video games, so...
I just thought
thank God it's not just like both of those conferences started with Advanced Warfare looking like a just normal Call of Duty game, and then, like, I don't know, like Battlefield Hardline opening up Sony's. Like, that would be really disappointing to me. It's like, at least it seems like we're moving into a different genre being popular, and luckily it's a genre that I like a lot more than modern military stuff. So,
and that's just what interests me about this split, is that you have 2 games from Activision opening the 2 different conferences. They're both sci-fi oriented. You know, the trend is interesting.
Yeah, but they're both still first-person shooters, so that
right.
That domain goes unhindered.
Yeah, and I feel like there is just more excitement around some of the Destiny stuff right now, because it's not the 9th, 10th, 11th game in a franchise.
I mean, there's way more mystery around Destiny about, like, what playing that game will actually be like, because we still, I feel there's a lot about the game we still don't know.
And who knows what Destiny will be, but man, Bungie can put a trailer together.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that later. So, Microsoft went on. They talked about Forza 5.
Yeah, that was a really weird part where it's like a guy comes out, and I knew they were going to talk about Forza Horizon 2, because that was a game that got announced like a day before the press conferences happened. And so the guy comes out, and then he talks for like 5 minutes about Forza 5 and not Forza Horizon 2, and he announces that Nürburgring, which is a, like, apparently a really famous racetrack. I'm not into racing. But this racetrack, who he said is like, this is like the most famous, well-known racetrack in the entire world, and now it's going to be in Forza Motorsport 5, and we're releasing it today for free. It's like, that part was like, and there's a lot of that, like, we are releasing this thing today for free. Or not necessarily for free, but we're releasing this thing today. But it was like, if this is the most famous racetrack in the entire fucking world, why was it not in for like, hey, cool free racetrack DLC? Like, there's nothing wrong with that. It was like, why does this have so much significance in your press conference that it's like I swear they devoted as much time to talking about that as they did about the, like, successive Forza Horizon 2 trailer that they showed.
Yeah,
it's also like, why it's like, one, why was it not in the game in the first place, and 2, why should I give, like, why does anyone give a fuck?
Apparently that was a problem with Forza 5, is it was very feature light and content light, and it needed more tracks.
From what I understand, there were a lot of problems with Forza 5. In particular, like, everyone that I know who plays racing games says they really don't like the Drivatar thing, because for the exact same reasons I assumed nobody would like the Drivatar thing, because it's a lot more fun to race against AI racers than it is against human racers, because in a human race, it's like, everyone, like, goes really fast, and then very quickly one person takes the lead, and nobody can overtake them, and it's not, like, dynamic or interesting that way, and so having everyone play that way with the AI seems like that would suck. And the Drivatars are being carried in the Forza Horizon 2, so that seems unfortunate for most people, but...
Alright. Assassin's Creed Unity.
Yes, Assassin's Creed Unity. I think that was also then later showed off at Ubisoft's press conference, obviously. It was kind of interesting that this popped up at Microsoft's, because I feel like Assassin's Creed is usually a Sony thing. Like last year, Assassin's Creed 4 showed at Sony's press conference, and that was also where Assassin's Creed 4 froze on stage.
It threw me for a little bit of a loop, because they had a couple of big third-party things here. They had Call of Duty, they had Assassin's Creed Unity, they had the Tomb Raider reveal later on, things like that. Sure. I was kind of wondering what big things are going to be left for Sony when we get to there, beyond Destiny, because we knew Destiny was going to be there. And it was interesting to me what kind of things came out at the Sony conference that surprised me, of things I hadn't thought of before. But yeah, I like this Assassin's Creed Unity demo. You and I were talking about this before the podcast. I'm really interested in Unity now after seeing all we did this week. I think the idea of 4-player co-op, I have no idea how that works in Assassin's Creed. It does not seem intuitive to me, but maybe it doesn't have to right now. Maybe they've revamped kind of how Assassin's Creed plays a little bit, and it makes more sense. And I'm excited to see if they've changed things up. I also just think seeing the demo and then seeing the big preview they had at Ubisoft, which both of them just gorgeous next-gen graphics and stuff. I'm excited. I like the setting they've picked with the French Revolution. Unity looks like a cool game to me. So
sure, yeah. Like for me, I'm a lot more skeptical of it than you are. Where did you watch the part that was demoed in the Ubisoft press conference also?
I might have missed that.
Okay, yeah, because that was more gameplay stuff where it was actually... And they showed a lot of single-player stuff. So it's obviously like, this is not going to be only like, you can only play this game with like your friends. Like it's a co-op game, like the Fable Legends game they talk about later is. It's clearly you can play it single-player, but it's like they never explain how the co-op works. Like they never explained if, it's drop in, drop out, like you can just everyone free roam the world, or it's like if it's you like join a mission and you join someone's mission and you help them out on their mission. But yeah, with Assassin's Creed, we talked about that franchise so much on this podcast, and for me, it's like Assassin's Creed 4 was a huge breath of fresh air for that franchise, largely because of the ship combat, which broke up so much of the monotony that those games get into with like the combat, the like melee combat being so easy, so simple, where you are this one-man army, also making it weird to me that you would have co-op, where it was like, watching them demo the game at the Ubisoft conference, I was like, they were sneaking around, and it's cool that there's a stealth system. Don't get me wrong, I've been complaining about the fact that you cannot crouch in an Assassin's Creed game since the first one, because they have always designed stealth missions and never given you the tools to execute them properly. The only time, like, Assassin's Creed 4's plantation missions were, like, acceptable, they were like okay, but they still felt like you were trying to push stealth onto a game that has no stealth mechanics. So you put all these weird things in the environment where it's like, if you are in here, you can't be seen, instead of like allowing me to sort of like naturally engage with cover and be stealthy like you would in any other stealth game that has been made since like the fucking 90s, So I'm glad they're putting in stealth, but on the other hand, unless like the mission requirements require you to be stealthy, it's like I was just watching the trailer and it's like, dude, just run into that room and kill everybody. Because I saw in the Ubisoft press conference, like I saw him get into a little fight with like 3 dudes, and guess what? Counter kills and combo kills are still in there. So the combat, at least as far as that's concerned, is not fundamentally changed. So, I can kill like 50 dudes in an Assassin's Creed game at this point and not get a single hit. So why do I need other people with me? It seems like they've just slow me down,
Well, it really is an interesting thing. You and I are coming at this game from such different perspectives.
Because the Assassin's Creed 4 is the only Assassin's Creed game you've played.
Yeah.
I played all of them.
Well, and what's interesting to me is I think, like, I'm betting there are a lot of people in my position at this point where I think they made a good jumping on point for people. I'm guessing the number of people who have religiously played every Assassin's Creed game like you have. I shouldn't say you reluctantly played them all.
I have inexplicably and unfortunately played every single Assassin's Creed game.
But that's, I'm betting not everyone has followed it that closely, and it's just, my major hope for Unity, and if they can do this, then I'll be happy, is if, story-wise, they can bring the same kind of, just, I think, storytelling clarity they did to Black Flag, where it was just, it's not a great pirate story, it's not the most insightful pirate story they've ever told, but it used its setting fantastically well. It told a story that was really just tied directly into its setting, and it had characters who popped. If they can do that in Unity, and I think the French Revolution is an interesting time to explore with that, and I think there are similar opportunities there. If they have that, I'll be happy, and if, they can find enough variation within it. I don't know if they'll have anything like the pirate ship mechanics. All we know so far is that it seems like it's fairly landlocked, but if there's some other stuff in there to break it up, if there's some other stuff to break it up, that would be good too. But either way, I'm excited just because I'm still fresh on Assassin's Creed. I've only played the one, and I loved the hell out of it, and I'm excited for more.
Yeah, I mean, the big question that still sort of hangs over Assassin's Creed that was not clarified at all is what is the story now in terms of, like, the meta-narrative, like, the actual events that are going on. Because, like, one of the things about these Assassin's Creed franchises, and kind of Ubisoft in general, is that when they let their story just have, like, be kind of funny and a little bit crazy, it works okay. Far Cry 3, it's like they messed up a lot of the execution, but it worked pretty well for the most part. It's like the Assassin's Creed 2 games, compared to like Assassin's Creed 1, those stories work way better because they have some humor to them, because Ezio is a fun character, even if he isn't much of a character. It's like it's better than what Altair is, where it's like they were very serious, very deadpan with the original Assassin's Creed. And Assassin's Creed 3 kind of was in between, and I think did some interesting stuff, but botched its execution in some ways that like made people hate that game like way too much, like in excessive fashion, but I understand why they hate it. With Assassin's Creed 4, I think they had a really good, like really funny, like hilarious meta-narrative of the satire, and it fit with the pirate thing because the pirate's so excessive, it's really funny and lighthearted. It has some serious moments that pay off well, but for the most part, Edward is this fun character that you're happy to play with. Blackbeard is this cool fucking dude, that's a fun character to be with. The French Revolution is not a happy, fun, like, yay situation. It is this, like, horrible, horrific, terrifying, bloody thing where, you have this really oppressive monarchy which is overthrown, but overthrown in the most destructive, bloody, disgusting, amoral way you possibly could do it. Like, the French Revolution is a model for how you should not have a revolution in terms of like the violence of it. They ended up creating this just bizarre fucking totalitarian state that was far worse than the monarchy was afterwards with Robespierre. So I don't have a lot of confidence that Ubisoft is going to be able to tell any sort of real story of the French Revolution with any grace or anything.
Well, and as we just saw with Watch Dogs, when they try to do something
serious, it's
Watch Dogs is an utter failure of a story. Yeah. I should say I finally finished the campaign for that, and good God, the story in that game is just atrocious. There's nothing redeemable about it. It's awful.
So that
I just don't know what it makes me.
And then also like that being set in the French Revolution, they can't, especially seeing the tone of the trailers and stuff and the demo, they can't do the satire thing. They cannot do that because it would be this crazy contrast between because I will say one of the most impressive things about Unity and about the demos to me was like their version of Revolution France was really, really interesting and really well created, where you had massive sprawling crowds and the streets just piled with like destroyed, if you ever seen like Les Miserables and stuff like that, it's just destruction and carnage everywhere, all these people like poor, starving, just like mad raving, like attacking the guards and stuff. Like that was really, really good and really well done, but it's also really dark and dour and not a thing that you can then have like, hey, like we're having you go back into the past to make this video game for us and we're working with Ubisoft, wink wink, and everyone working here has funny French Canadian accents. It's like, that's not, so, it's like, I'm probably going to end up getting Unity. No, okay, I'm going to get Unity. Like, at this point, I seriously don't even plan on buying it. I know I'm going to get it. I know I'm going to get that game and play it.
Why would you not?
It's just, it will happen. But I am pretty skeptical of it.
Well, and I agree with everything you're saying. I do think Unity will be narratively a major test for them. My only hope is that, the way you just described the French Revolution, and I think the amount of stuff that goes on there, I think there is such potential to tell a good story there, and I think they've got...
Don't do this to yourself. You build this for yourself.
I'm not going to say they can.
Okay,
I'm saying the potential exists.
There is potential there, and that's what make it... Yeah.
My hope is that they can tap into that. I think it's a test for them. I think this is a major test for them as a company narratively, because if they can tackle that, and I'm not at all saying I'm confident they can, please understand the difference here.
Okay, good.
I'm not saying they can, but if they manage to pull that off even 50% well, that's that's a foundation for the future, because that says they can make more,
And it's like, and I should say with Assassin's Creed 3, I do think a lot of that stuff they handled in a very interesting fashion, but again, they got like burned for it because they did they had some ambitions with Assassin's Creed 3. And people, people hate the Connor character, the main character from that game, even though he's by far the most nuanced and interesting protagonist, because he is a very stoic character. Everyone hated him because they couldn't just have fun being him. So I'm worried about, the one time they did, an okay... I'm not trying to say Assassin's Creed 3's story is amazing, but they did an okay job. They had some good ideas, and the way they presented the American Revolution was way better than the possibility of it being this really jingoistic thing. It probably wouldn't have been like that because they're not an American company. But still, being American, you can see that story being told in this really disingenuous fashion, whereas actually having it from a proper Native American perspective, having that much respect for the culture, it's they did it well by that. But again, that was the game where people fucking hate Assassin's Creed 3. So, and
I do think the second half of Black Flag is at its most interesting when they go dark.
Sure,
that is the best part of Black Flag narratively. Is they subvert the idea of pirates as fun in the last half, and it gets really good. The difference is, though, you cannot subvert the French Revolution. It starts dark and it gets darker.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
But they've got. I do think visually they've got the scale right. They've got the look right. They've got those sorts of things.
The guy's coat has really long coattails now. I feel like every Assassin's Creed game, the coattails just grow 2 inches.
So I think the raw material is there. I hope they make something out of it. And hope is different than expectations.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I will play Unity no matter what. I am excited for that game. Even if the story is crap, I'll have fun playing more Assassin's Creed. But we'll see. We've spent way too long on this one game.
Yeah, but we could, with that, I think that addresses it for the Ubisoft conference
it does.
As well. So.
Yes. So let's talk about Sunset Overdrive. This is kind of Microsoft's big game this year on the Xbox One. I feel like.
Yeah,
it's coming out the exact same day as Assassin's Creed Unity, October 28th. That's interesting. But they showed a bunch of stuff for this, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was a trailer and then a demo. And actually, you should watch the trailer. The trailer's pretty fucking great.
I saw it.
Oh, you saw it? Okay, yeah.
The Sunset Overdrive stuff, I don't know. Maybe it's a little had to abrasive for me, but
like
yeah.
for me, I guess when I say the trailer is great, I mean the opening of the trailer, where especially watching the press conference and not knowing that it was a Sunset Overdrive trailer, it was just like they start playing the next trailer and it starts off with this like modern military like army dude hiding behind a box shooting some like terrorist looking fuckers from Counter-Strike, and then all of a sudden this character from Sunset Overdrive just jumps in and like is skating around and shooting people. I think it was really funny. He has a that character has a really great line at the end of that scene where he says, like, you and your box are safe. And it's just like, it's a really good, like, it's not going to be probably anything really, like, in the game, but it's a really funny satire of the state, even though it's not, like we said, it doesn't seem like it is the state of games anymore, like, everything is going kind of sci-fi now, and a little more ridiculous. It is a funny poke at, like, you know, Battlefield Hardline, which is what I thought it was going to be. It was like, oh, okay, this must be the Battlefield Hardline trailer. It's like, oh, fuck, no, it's not.
So this is interesting to me. We've got Sunset Overdrive. I only saw a little bit of it, but it's this new kind of thing. Tell us what it's about, because I'm sure a lot of people don't know.
It's the new game by Insomniac. It had a small teaser trailer last year. For those who don't know, Insomniac is the Ratchet & Clank people, mostly is what they're known for. And it's sort of this very ridiculous, like, third-person shooter, but there's a lot of... I've heard it described by games media who have played it, that it's kind of like Tony Hawk mixed with a third-person shooter in some ways, that it's like you have this kind of trick system, and a lot of emphasis is put on the movement in the game, so there's all this... You're grinding around rails, you're, like, swinging on poles, it's very fast, very fluid motion, and it's sort of... It's you know... The whole point of the joke at the beginning was that the game that the Sunset Overdrive guy came into was this slow, plodding, dull, gray, third-person cover shooter, and this is this bright, cheerful, saturated, really quick, over-the-top, crazy third-person shooter. And so there's a lot of emphasis on crazy weapons, like crazy character designs, very irreverent 90s Tude-esque dialogue where the dude is like talking into the camera and basically breaking the fourth wall. Like, it kind of like feels like half the dialogue was written from a Deadpool comic. And, you know, it looks cool. Like, it doesn't seem like a game that, you know, obviously I don't have an Xbox One, so I couldn't play it, but it doesn't seem like a game I would necessarily buy. But it's a game that made a pretty cool trailer. I was kind of into the trailer. So.
Well, and I actually like the whole idea of Sunset Overdrive. It sounds pretty cool. I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's something... this is a theme, though, I would say, for most of the games they showed at the Xbox press conference, is that a lot of these are not games I would find myself playing, but they look like good, interesting, sometimes innovative games that would offer a lot to gamers.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's why I came away feeling fairly positive about this press conference, is that the fact that a lot of this didn't feel for me, but I also didn't feel negative towards it, that tells me that the people who own Xbox Ones probably came out of that happy, and that's good. There's a lot of... It seems like Sunset Overdrive and a lot of these other things they're showing, those seem like games that Xbox gamers would really enjoy, and that's one of the number one things Microsoft needs to be doing.
Yeah.
So, speaking of which, Super Ultra Dead Rising 3 Arcade Remix Hyper Edition EX Plus Alpha.
Yeah, that was maybe my favorite part of all of E3 in some ways. That trailer was so... Just the end of that trailer was so fucking funny, where it's like Capcom really kind of poking fun at itself. Yeah. And it was just the pacing of it where it's Super Ultra Dead Rising 3 Arcade Remix Hyper Edition EX Plus Alpha. It's like the way they like tacked on like every little thing that Plus Alpha. I was fucking like rolling on the ground laughing after that, because it was... I mean, you know, I like Dead Rising. It seemed like that was a... And people seem to really like Dead Rising 3, and it seemed like the worries about that game before it came out, of it not sort of keeping the really strange tone of the Dead Rising games, were, you know, just like bad marketing, and that the game did have like a bunch of just weird, crazy shit. And this seems like, you know, if I had an Xbox One, I would totally fucking buy this just based on that trailer. Like, that seemed really cool and over the top and weird.
I think it's interesting. Both Sony and Microsoft had a lot of DLC-heavy stuff at the top of the show.
Sure, yeah.
And normally that would bore me to tears. I just wouldn't care about that. But I thought it all seemed like stuff that, if you're interested in those games, or even in the platform, it seemed like cool DLC stuff. Like this, if you like Dead Rising, and if you are an Xbox fan, you probably like Dead Rising. It's like, that's awesome. And it's, again, as you say, Capcom being very self-aware.
Yeah.
It feels like a really good use of what they've got.
Yeah, like all the weird, just like, hey, there's like, you know, Frank from Dead Rising 1 in a Felicia costume from Darkstalkers.
Yeah, and we should say,
shit.
Super Ultra Dead Rising 3 Arcade Remix Hyper Edition EX Plus Alpha is a bunch of Capcom costumes and UI upgrades and whatnot.
Yeah, and like it's some weird arcade mode and stuff.
Yeah.
It's
so there's big, silly, fun kind of
it's like the second best game titles since like Persona 4 Arena, the Ultimax Ultra Suplex Hold.
Yes, indeed. Keeping on this theme of kind of Xbox games, we've got Fable Legends.
Yeah,
I don't know anything about Fable, so I didn't even try to make sense of this. What's this about?
So I really like Fable. I should say, I really like Fable 1. I think Fable 2 is a great fucking game. Fable 3 is awful. It's one of my least favorite games ever. It is a piece of shit, and it has... I would say, because I don't think I've ever talked about Fable 3 on this podcast before. I have one thing to say about Fable 3. If you are making a fucking open-world RPG game, and to get to the map screen, you make me press start and put the character into some weird, like real-world menu where he walks through stuff, and you make it so I can't press a hotkey to just go to the map screen. Every time I want to see the map, I have to press start and take 2 fucking steps and hit A to go to the map. You can go fuck yourself.
That's a real thing?
That is what they contextualize the menu in the game. So it's like you press start and your hero's like consciousness is transported to some weird realm where I think John Cleese voices your butler, which that's kind of cool, but that's just kind of there. And then you if you want to go into the dressing room to change your armor and like all this shit, but it's like the map is in the center of the room and it's like 2 or 3 steps away, and it's like the most aggravating 2 or 3 steps because it is also the worst map I have ever seen. Like there's no detail, there's nothing labeled, and it's like impossible to find anything.
That's so weird because
is maddening.
I mean, if anything, we're moving towards making the maps more accessible now. Because, you've got, your DS and stuff where the map is just there all the time.
Yeah.
The map should be the easy part.
Yeah, no, you should not have to, I should not have to walk to my fucking map. So
all right.
That's Fable 3.
Does Fable Legends look like it will improve on that?
Fable Legends looks like something completely different. I have no idea.
What is it? I don't get it.
So, it seems like... And I have no idea, because they showed it a little bit last year, too. And I have no idea if there's going to be, a single-player component, but they have not talked about a single-player component at all. Because Fable, historically, is, a totally single-player game. There was some co-op stuff in 2 and 3, but it was, really primarily 100% single-player. So this is, 4-player co-op, but with some asynchronous element where one player can play the villain and be the dude who was giving this demo was so over the top where he was like, and you, the player, can become a malevolent god who can manipulate monsters and traps in the environment to destroy the courageous heroes. It was really... It was unfortunate because one of the great things about Fable is that it has this really strange British charm, very sort of Monty Python-esque humor to it, and that dude did not have a British accent demoing the game. Kind of ruined the entire effect to me.
That's too bad.
But yeah, it seemed like it might be kind of cool. The idea of this asynchronous multiplayer is always kind of interesting. I don't think it's ever been executed. A ton of games have tried to do something similar, but I don't think it's ever been perfectly done yet.
Mario Party 10.
Exactly. Well, yeah, Mario Party 10 basically has the exact same idea. Only, except for Mario Party 10 already has 3v1 minigames, so having, we'll talk about them more later.
Yeah,
but anyway. Yeah, so Fable Legends, it seems like it might be okay, but it doesn't... For me, as someone who, again, I think, Fable 2 is one of my favorite games from the last generation. I love that game so much. I'm not interested in it at all. It doesn't seem like a Fable game to me. It seems like... And it's also Peter Molyneux, who, God bless him, the dude was crazy, with how he overhyped stuff. He was, the lead guy for Lionhead and on the Fable projects, and he kind of, I think, had a very sort of, background presence on Fable 3, which maybe is one of the reasons why they fucked it up so bad. It's really noticeable that he is not with Lionhead anymore. It's really noticeable that this is not his Fable, there was a degree of sort of creative and artistic control that I feel like he exerted over that franchise that was really apparent, that without him there, it's it doesn't feel like Fable to me, which is kind of sad, so.
Oh, well.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it anymore.
All right, so I tuned into the conference right here where they were talking about Project Spark, and it was right as Conker is getting on screen, and I'm like, is that Conker? That can't be Conker. That just can't be him.
It was the weirdest cameo. Because, Project Spark is another game that they demoed at E3 last year.
It's been in beta for a while.
Yeah, it's been in beta.
Open beta.
Yeah, it's basically one of the kind of Little Big Planet, it's a game where it's not the game that's the game, it's the you making the game that's the game.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Game. Yeah, but it's this user generated creation tool, kind of like a map creator kind of became its own video game. That seems what Project Spark is like. I don't have any personal interest in those kinds of games, but it seemed kind of cool. But yeah, at the end of the trailer, the logo comes up, and then out of fucking nowhere, and this is the only Rare thing, like Rare the studio, that was in any of the Microsoft conference, because I think like the Kinect Sports Rivals game just bombed like hell, because nobody gives a fuck. But yeah, Conker just comes out of nowhere and chainsaws the logo, and he's like, "Hey, I haven't been in a game for like 10 years, so I'm gonna be in this." And I was like, no, because having cartoon characters who swear stopped being funny the moment people came up with that idea of like, "Hey, motherfuckers, I'm fucking Conker. I'm gonna fuck you in the fucking mouth, you fucking bitch." Like, who gives a fuck? It's not funny. It's never been funny. Conker is a stupid character. It was a stupid thing. Fuck Conker. So
even if you hypothetically like Conker, though,
yeah, it's like
why Project Spark?
Yeah, but it's also like Conker. Like he said it in the thing. It's like, I haven't been in a game in 10 years. Nobody even remembers who I am.
Right. You know what would have been better if Conker had showed up in the Little Big Planet demo.
It's like, what's up, motherfuckers? You playing Little Big Planet? I'm gonna fucking cut you open, you sack bitch.
Sony, you can have that idea on us. License Conker.
Yeah, unfortunately, Sony would have to license a Microsoft-owned character, but sure.
All right. They showed an indie game called Ori and the Blind Forest.
That seemed pretty cool. It was like...
God, we had a lot of good indie game trailers this year. Oh, man. Lots of good stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know a lot about this one yet. Yeah. No one does, but it looks
seems like there's like a chubby dude and who has a mask and like a cat alien who kind of looks like Stitch from Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah.
And then a giant cool owl monster. Yeah. That's all I know about it.
But let's get into the big part of the Microsoft show, which was the unveiling of Halo, the Master Chief Collection, which will compile Halos 1, 2, 3, and 4. Not just the campaigns, which for Halo 1 and 2 are fully remastered, Halo 2 getting the anniversary treatment, but also every single multiplayer map from all of those games played on their original engines, but now on dedicated servers. Here's the interesting thing about Halo the Master Chief Collection.
Okay.
This sounds like a fucking fantastic 10 out of 10 amazing release they've put together.
Yeah.
And yet, because it's kind of the centerpiece of their show, it inevitably feels a tad underwhelming because at the end of the day, as good a package as they've put together, and this is clearly a great deal for Halo fans, it is 4 old games.
Yeah. I mean, it cannot be understated how awesome. Like, it's like the Criterion treatment, basically, for Halo games, which that's fucking awesome.
And I was saying this to you earlier, I love the idea that Halo Combat Evolved and 2 and 3 and 4, which will probably go offline on the Xbox 360 someday.
Yeah.
I love that they are getting archived, they are coming back, that multiplayer and those communities will be allowed to be there and flourish again, and they will be archived for a new generation of gamers for a long time to come. That is cool. These are pieces of game history, and more than anything else, they are great pieces of game history, and I love the idea of being able to play them again.
Yeah. So, it's an awesome package. I mean, it was a thing... But it is kind of like the sad thing about the Microsoft press conference. It was the thing that I was by far the most interested in.
Yes.
But it was like, but it is a re-release, like a great re-release, but a re-release of, like, I have so much Halo shit, dude. Like, I own these games. I've played Halo 2 to death. And I would love, like, I mean, there was this very serious moment where they'd had this, like, small little multiplayer match on their remastered Ascension where I was like, I have to have this because it's like I had so much nostalgia wrapped up in that game.
I had that exact same reaction because I was looking at the Master Chief Collection and I'm like, I want this game so badly. I'm like, do I have to buy an Xbox One? And then I thought about it. I'm like, no, I don't.
Yeah, you calm down for a second.
Because here's the thing. End of the day, 3 and 4, they're going to be in the exact same forms I have on my 360 now. 1, I already have the Anniversary Edition of.
Yeah.
2 is the only thing here, and it would seem really nice, but 2 is also my least favorite campaign in the series. Yeah. I love the multiplayer. I would like to play it again, but, I don't... That's the only thing I feel like I need to have out of this, and it's not worth a whole new console.
Yeah. And, also, I mean, there were a couple of things, being a Halo diehard, that they seriously fucked up about this reveal. One, the opening like Blur CG trailer that they showed, which kind of like it was a cool trailer because it was this recreation of the scene from Halo 2. Master Chief is like giving the Covenant back their bomb, and then he like gives them back their
Great
bomb.
Scene.
However, that scene, they omitted one of my favorite shots from the original cutscene, where Master Chief has the bomb and he goes into the reactor of the Covenant ship and then kicks off and goes back out into the space. In this, he just kicks the bomb at the Covenant ship and it blows up. And it's supposed to be like this hollow recording of the actual event that the fucking dude from the Halo 5 box art is looking at while Keith David talks to him, you know? So, that's fucked up. Like, did you not even watch the cutscene? What the fuck? 2, in the Halo 2 anniversary multiplayer thing, they redesigned the HUD and they put the shield bar at the top middle of the screen like it is in most Halo games, like Halo 3 on, instead of putting it right above the minimap, which is where it was in Halo 2. It is the only game that had the shield bar there. So I don't know why you do that. I think it is an excessive redesign. You know, it's like almost as bad as like Darth Vader going, no, like it's fuck up. It's all fucked up. So.
All right, well, but again, I mean, if you don't like that, you would have every single Halo 2 multiplayer map to play in its original form.
And, you know, I could hit the back button, I mean, they don't have the back button anymore. I could hit the, like...
It's called the view button.
There are some, like, abstract squares on this button, figure out what that means. Button. And then I could look at the actual Halo 2, but...
Yeah. I just, you know, it's a weird thing because this is such a fucking fantastic package they announced. I was getting so excited for it, and then I'm remembering I don't own this console. But man, you know, if I did own an Xbox One, I would feel so great about that. Oh, I would play. I would never stop playing it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I don't...
Because that thing's probably just going to be released for $60. What a tremendous fucking value that is. Like, good God.
It is Halo in a box.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like...
Although it's sad that, like...
Reach and ODST aren't there.
Especially ODST has such a great campaign.
I'm a little confused why ODST doesn't go in there because it's the exact same engine as 3. It's not a lot to add in.
Yeah, it's like a small, like, 5-hour campaign. Like, I would be fine if you omitted the firefight. You just, like, stuff the campaign in there. That'd be fine.
But, I mean, that's more to re-release in the future.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. We'll have the, like...
3
years from now, we'll have the Halo 3 Anniversary Edition, which will have ODST bundled in or something.
Sure. But, I mean, it's just...
Super Master Chief Collection.
Yeah, but all I was saying is that, you know, if you have an Xbox One, they just announced this is an orange box level deal in gaming.
Exactly, yeah.
It's fantastic. But I don't know if it's the kind of thing that would push Xbox Ones, especially because I feel like if you are enough of a diehard Halo fan to follow a console to its next iteration because you love Halo, you've already done that.
Yeah.
They don't need to sell you on the Xbox One.
Yeah.
To a certain degree. And even then, you and I are huge Halo fans, or were, but I think partly because we're not as interested in the future of the franchise, they've already kind of lost us, and nostalgia isn't going to get us back in.
But it is really telling that I was more excited and more happy and more interested in their like nostalgic retread than like the little bit they talked and showed about Halo 5. Which we should also say, like, that was super disappointing I mean, I guess there was a little bit of Halo 5 stuff in their weird trailer where it was, like, you know, about the Master Chief Collection. It was, like, contextualized as this new character talking to the Arbiter, and the Arbiter being like, you have to find the Chief, and in order to do that, you have to know everything he has done, so play all these video games and give me $60.
Yeah.
So, like, that's, you know... that's telling about like where I am with Halo, that I am way more interested in, like, I want shinier old stuff than I want brand new stuff. But to be fair to the Master Chief Collection, it does come with this Halo Nightfall
TV show
thing, like that Ridley Scott is executive producing,
which means he has no involvement in it whatsoever.
There is some sort of bizarre, and like Ridley Scott exists somehow in relation to this thing.
You know what it means? It means they gave him a check, and he gave them his name.
So they are contractually obliged to, and like, you know, financially obligated to mention that Ridley Scott exists in relation to this thing we are making in some fashion. Like how there's some separate Steven Spielberg thing where Steven Spielberg exists in relation to a totally different Halo thing that they're making hypothetically. They didn't talk about it here, but I assume that thing's still in production. But so this Halo Nightfall show, I guess, since it seems they said like it comes with it, I guess maybe it's like a short film or something.
It's a series of short films. The pilot comes with it day one, and it'll be releasing episodically weeks thereafter.
Yeah, I don't think they clarified that at the conference.
It starts in December, I think. No, Power starts in December. That's Sony. Yeah. It starts day one with the Master Chief Collection, but it'll air in weekly increments, I think. Yeah. It's going to be like it sounded like to me, the Halo 4 movie. What was that called?
Forward Unto Dawn.
Forward Unto Dawn, where it's like smaller. This will be higher budget and whatnot, but yeah.
And the Forward Unto Dawn thing was pretty cool, for a Halo fan. I think for a normal person,
you do get the Halo 5 Guardians beta this December, so that's
although neat. This may be jumping ahead, but they announced a new Crackdown. I really wish they had stuffed the Halo 5 beta onto the new Crackdown, because that's the game that the Halo 3 beta was originally attached to, which got me to buy Crackdown, and then I suddenly discovered that holy shit, Crackdown's a great game.
Yeah, so that would be a good strategy. But any other things to say about Halo? We need to get moving on.
Yeah, I think that's about it.
So anyway, let's see. They had a big indie game part here, and kind of the highlight of that was the creators of Limbo came out to show their new game. Did it have a title?
Inside.
Inside, yeah.
And they did the cool thing where it's like the copyright was in Roman numerals, so it was like an old movie.
Oh, nice.
I noticed that.
Yeah, it looked neat.
Yeah, like there wasn't a lot to it, but like I never played Limbo. It seems like I kind of stuffed Limbo into this category of like generic old indie artsy platformer that like probably is actually pretty good, but for some reason I have no interest in playing.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, it seems cool.
But fuck that. They announced Rise of the Tomb Raider, and instantly one of my most anticipated games because...
And also, I feel like they are competing with Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice for worst title.
Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Rise of the Tomb Raider. Like, how do you make a video game that has a title that sounds like it is like the shitty video game to your video game, you know?
Yes.
Like, how did you do that?
Oh, well, but, I don't care. I didn't even care about what was in the CGI trailer. It's just Tomb Raider, the 2012 Tomb Raider game, 2013 Tomb Raider game, was so fucking phenomenal. One of the best games of that year. Honestly, one of my favorite third-person adventure games I've ever played. I just cannot wait for this. I want more of that. I cannot wait to see what they can do when they're developing this for next-gen consoles. And, it's one of those games that just the presence of it is all I need to be excited for it.
Yeah. And, like, for me, I didn't play that new Tomb Raider, and I probably will at some point because I am interested. I always kind of have been interested in this Tomb Raider reboot and never got around to playing it. But, like, the content of the CG trailer was pretty cool. It seemed like, I don't know the specifics of the Tomb Raider reboot story, but I know, like, kind of the generic, like, overall thing.
Shit happens.
Yeah, and so it seems like the direction they're going with like, her at therapy and stuff, and, like, kind of being pulled between her becoming a Tomb Raider and raiding some tombs, and, like, maybe these last vestiges of her humanity are fighting with each other, and at the end she obviously becomes some sort of, like, mass-murdering sociopath, and, like fully embraces that part of herself. And that's what the Tomb Raider will be. I don't know what they're going to call the third game now. Because it seems like the first one was like the Tomb Raider origin story, right? Like that was the whole premise. It's like, we have this cool character, we're going to like tell her origin in this like new gritty universe. But now it's Rise of the Tomb Raider, which sounds right like, Tomb Raider Begins, basically.
Well, it's interesting because I think one of the directions they still have yet to go is that you don't do a lot of tomb raiding in the first Tomb Raider game. It's all optional. It's like, and they're actually really good parts of the game if you play them all, but you kind of, and I think one of the good things about that game, it's almost like Infamous Second Son, where you want to and are incentivized to do every one of the side missions and 100% it because it's just more fun that way. But they did leave all the tomb raiding for the side missions. Maybe the idea is that they're going more in that direction here. But yeah, they could have just called it Tomb Raider 2. Whatever, but Rise of the Tomb Raider, not a great title.
No, not at all.
The Witcher 3.
Seems cool. I didn't like The Witcher 1, and, like, I want to be really interested in The Witcher 3, but I just can't because I so did not like Witcher 1, even though I know Witcher 2 is supposed to be fantastic. I've never played Witcher 2. Everyone's super excited for Witcher 3, and the demo looked awesome. I cannot bring myself to be interested in it for some reason. I don't know why.
Phantom Dust.
It's an Xbox game that I never played that like nobody played. Apparently people liked. I didn't know a lot about it. It's like
I've never heard of it, and people were really excited for it. What is it? I
think it's like a card action thing.
Okay, that's not going to sell consoles. Tom Clancy's The Division.
It's cool.
Continues to be The Division.
It was like I felt like this was like the cut material from the demo from last year or something. Like it just felt like it was the exact same thing.
When is this game ever coming out? Is it still for next year?
Maybe tentatively, who knows?
Okay. Yeah. Scalebound?
I really like Platinum. Platinum has made some really great games. They made Bayonetta and they made Vanquish, which was a fucking awesome third-person shooter. This was an interesting looking CG trailer, but like I don't know anything about the game. So yeah, who knows? Like Platinum is a good developer, so that'll probably be a good game.
Well, it's nice that they were able to get one big new IP in there before the end, and that seems interesting. But they ended the show with a big new Crackdown reveal.
Yes. So, like I said earlier, Crackdown, the original Crackdown, great open world superpower game, basically. And like this was just a CG trailer for a new Crackdown. Crackdown 2, I never played. I heard like everybody hated it. I didn't play it because I played the demo, and I saw that in the demo, Crackdown 2 is set in literally the exact same city, as in the same assets as Crackdown 1. So, no.
It'd be like getting GTA 6 in San Andreas.
Yeah, it would be like if Lost and Damned was called GTA 5, you know?
Right.
It's like, fuck you. No, I'm not buying that. I bought this game when it was called Crackdown 1.
Yeah.
So, I never played Crackdown 2. I think Crackdown is a great franchise that should have, it should have had a great Crackdown 2, so, like, they didn't show any gameplay or anything, so, but it seemed like it was Crackdown. It had the agent voice dude from Crackdown. It had an agility orb in there, and there was a dude who blew up stuff, so.
Yes. So we'll see. Rise of the Crackdown.
Exactly.
All right. And that was their conference, and
Microsoft.
So let's talk about Microsoft, what we thought of this conference. It was 100% straight, no nonsense, just games.
Yeah, it was game, Super Ultra Dead Rising 3, like Arcade Remix, Hyper Edition, Ultra.
You can't even remember it, can you?
Alpha.
Yeah.
I think I got almost all of it.
It was fun following the live blog for that part because journalists could not type it up fast enough.
Yeah, it's like what the fuck is this game? It's like I like to think that's like, oh, it's Super Ultra Dead Rising 3. Wait, no, it's Super Ultra Dead Rising 3 Arcade Remix. Super Ultra Dead Rising 3 Arcade Remix Hyper Edition. Wait, no, it's like EX plus Alpha. I think like they'd like 5 tweets about the game.
So here's the thing.
Yes.
It was all games. Microsoft needed to make a good game showing here. They did, but I felt there wasn't quite enough variance because the only thing they had was games.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts?
And I think like it was kind of disappointing that like almost, I think like all the games except for like a small handful, like some of the indie game stuff and Scalebound were like games we already knew about, either games that like we know are coming out like Assassin's Creed, or games that they like half of them were games that they showed at last E3 that still have not come out, like Sunset Overdrive. And the new stuff, there wasn't any really like big gameplay thing, and that's one of the things I think Ubisoft figured out, and it's kind of biting them in the butt a little bit with Watch Dogs, where people are like, pointing at, hey, your original concept thing, like your original
was a lie.
I mean, it's excessive. Like that's how it is for video game development. It's this vertical slice. It is not representative of what the product is going to be. They're going to make concessions in development. We should understand that. But it is selling this idea to you that the game didn't live up to. That's like, that's like half, like it's almost everything. But Ubisoft figured out that formula and they replicated it in their conference, where you show your big new thing is fucking gameplay. Like, even if it is this like vertical slice pre-alpha target thing, it's still gameplay, and to me, like, that's way more interesting. Like, if they had showed a dude playing the Crackdown game, I would have been way more excited than seeing a Crackdown CG trailer that's like, I know what Crackdown is, so it's like nothing in that trailer other than, it's going to be in a new city. Like, that was the biggest, like, most information you could glean from that trailer, and that's like what Crackdown 2 should have been. That's not anything crazy. So, yeah, while it's like their conference was good, like, it was cool that they focused so much on games. I think it felt at the end of the day like a trailer reel to me with not enough gameplay, not enough new stuff, and that kind of like, I just felt exhausted by the time I got to the end of their conference. It was just like, you needed to pace it. Like, you should have, I get that like people bitch about when you guys talk about stuff that isn't just a video game, but it's like, you need to talk about your platform. You need to talk about like improvements you're making on your platform, that kind of like big level message stuff, like what you're trying to do with your platform, especially since I don't know what the fuck they're trying to do, considering like, they mentioned like Harmonix is making some Dance Central game that will be on Kinect. They didn't show anything of it. They just said that it exists. That was like the only mention of Kinect in the entire conference. So I don't know what that console is, because that console was originally designed to be a heavy multimedia machine, and this conference is positioning it as this pure gaming device, which to me is like,
that's not what it is.
That's troubling. Yeah, because that's not what it was designed to be, and trying to retrofit it as that thing is, like, it still does not present any compelling reason to buy it over a PS4. It doesn't have anything other than like a handful of games that don't seem that interesting.
Yeah.
Over the PS4.
Right, especially when you can ask, seriously the question, for all the multi-platform games they showed, are any of these going to run at all as well as they will on PS4?
And all of them are going to run worse. It's not going to be significantly worse, but it will be worse. There will be a qualitative difference.
So it's just... I agree with that. I would have liked to see... They needed to say something about what the unifying identity of their console is going to be, what kind of vision they have for the future. I thought they showed a little bit more identity here in the choice of games they picked to show than they have had in the last couple months, in that this did feel like a set of games that would appeal to, what I think of as Xbox gamers, Xbox community. Sure. It felt a little more cohesive there. Just as I think Sony has done a good job in recent years of, these are PlayStation games, this is what people come to PlayStation for. And there's a lot of overlap between those, but I did feel like that identity was there. But that identity was not, pushed out. It was kind of there in things, but it wasn't at the forefront of things.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This was a step in the right direction.
I agree.
But it's not, a marathon in the right direction.
Sure. Weird metaphor, but sure.
Yeah. In any case. You want to move on and talk about some other stuff?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's talk about... Is it Ubisoft next?
No, EA.
EA was next, okay. So. EA, I don't want to go through each piece of the news, but let's...
Because you didn't watch EA's, right? That was...
No, I looked it all up earlier. I'm familiar with the news, but...
let me just talk about EA's pretty quick, because it's just... EA's press conference to me was a real fucking shit show, in that... They showed, the main bulk of their presentation was showing, complete known quantities. Where it's if you're going to an EA press conference, you're going to see Madden, you're going to see, their whole suite of sports games, which includes, NHL, FIFA, and they also showed, now it's not Tiger Woods golf anymore, it's, PGA Tour or something, which has, weird fantasy golf courses or something. That was, all they showed about it. So it's you're going to get your yearly, annual EA Sports titles, and they are going to have ridiculously over-the-top melodramatic trailers. The best one was, you should watch it, because it's great. It's so over-the-top. It's the FIFA trailer, which has fucking Idris Elba narrating it.
Oh, God.
Saying something that's this isn't a game. This is football. It's really over-the-top and really fucking funny. But yeah, that was, the core of, actual video games, proper video games that are being released that they showed. There's this weird section... where they have the rights to UFC, so they have this UFC game that's coming out really soon, and apparently Bruce Lee is a playable character in it, which is just weird, because it's I don't know, it's Bruce Lee, and it's Bruce Lee's dead, and he never, he died before the UFC was created. It's weird that he is in this game. I mean, they showed a really cool Bruce Lee clip before they showed the game, so that was cool, but that's still weird. So that was, sort of their core thing, but the rest of their presentation was they showed this whole series of all this BioWare stuff, all this DICE stuff. DICE is their Battlefield guys, and this Criterion game, which there was no game. So it's it opened with DICE showing this we are working on Star Wars Battlefront. Look, we got to go to the locations where the movies were shot, and look, we got access to some of the props from the movies to model. It's we are making a Battlefront game someday, and it's okay, and then it was we're making Mirror's Edge 2. It's totally a game. It is being made. It is a game that shall exist maybe someday if it doesn't get canceled. It's okay. Criterion's we are making a game. Here's some super test footage of stuff that we haven't even bothered texturing. It's so early. We are in the playtest stage of what we want the game to be. It's got planes and helicopters in it. It's okay. And then we have here's all these these BioWare people. It's we're working on a new IP. We're not going to show you anything from it. We're not going to tell you anything about it, but we're working on it, and we're making a Mass Effect game. Here's a new Krogan model. It's okay, why did you just spend half of their conference was, we're making these games. We promise we're making them. They will be games that come out, but everything we have from them is so early that we might as well just come out and show new concept art.
Will any of those games come out before 2016?
Maybe. They said they're going to show... this was... At their end of the Battlefront thing, this is really telling. They said, see more spring 2015.
Oh, God.
See more! So it's the next time we see that game is going to be spring 2015. And so that's... Yeah, I don't think any of those... Some of those games might come out 2016 or, late 2015, maybe.
But, like, it's weird because I want to play all of those games you just talked about.
Yeah, like, those were the cool games. They also, I should say, they had a, like, small Dragon Age 3 demo. I don't know a whole lot about Dragon Age 3. I loved Dragon Age 1, so I will buy Dragon Age 3, but they didn't show enough about it that I don't have anything to talk about for it. So that was, Dragon Age 3 was, like, the only game they showed that was like, that's a game coming out. It's coming out this year. It looks really cool. I'm going to buy it. It's like everything else was, like, a sports title or some fantasy thing that will exist maybe in the future.
Right. So here's what I was going to say about this game. So they all sound like games I want to play, but the way they introduce them, it just frustrates me because, like with Mass Effect, we have heard every word in that Mass Effect trailer before about Mass Effect 4. Yeah. They've released that video. I mean, not literally that video, but they've released the content of that video before. We know all that. We know this about Star Wars Battlefront. We didn't know this thing from Criterion. I think that sounds like a really cool idea for Criterion to be doing, but we don't even know what it is as a game.
Yeah, and so I just want to play Burnout Paradise 2. And I know that Criterion is not, most of the people that made Burnout Paradise aren't there anymore. I still just want Burnout Paradise 2.
Okay. But yeah, it's a really weird way to do things. It's the worst of E3 where you have... we're going to talk about stuff that you will not see for years and years. That's the most frustrating thing about E3. And this E3, so much of it felt like they were trying consciously to move away from that. Microsoft had stuff where it's like, like the DLC for Forza. It's like, we've got this cool DLC, you can play it right now.
Oh, and that's the other thing. The Dead Rising 3 thing was released that day, too. So, like, the Dead Rising 3 one was like, this DLC is out fucking now, dude.
Yeah, so it's like, and Sony did it with a full, real, indie game, and other people were doing this. They even, EA even did this with Battlefront Hardline and having a beta today, and Sony and Activision did it with Destiny. You can play the alpha this week. So the idea is we're not just talking in hypotheticals. We're going to show you if you want to see the proof of what we're talking about, you can go play it right now. That to me is so much more exciting than Mass Effect 4 will exist someday, maybe hypothetically.
Yeah.
Thanks. Who gives a shit? I love Mass Effect more than almost any other series, but just knowing that it's in the ether does not excite me.
Exactly. It's like you could have at least done like something more. Like it's really weird that they didn't even bother to like just make a teaser trailer. Like that would have been way more interesting.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to have all these fucking BioWare guys talk to me about the fact that they're making a video game. I want to see even if it's like bullshit, I would rather see a teaser trailer than that. So
yeah, it's too bad. But let's move on. I mean, is there anything else to talk about from EA? EA is EA at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing was that Battlefield Hardline game, which is like Battlefield, but it's like cops versus robbers. Which weirdly, like watching the trailer, like it being cops versus robbers makes me like kind of weirdly uncomfortable in a way that it's like when it's army guys fighting doesn't,
Yeah.
There's this sort of like domestic element of it where it's like it being this way over the top, just super grandiose. Like, it still is like we're knocking down skyscrapers, like Levolution bullshit. That's still happening in Battlefield. It's like, but it's like cops. It's like that's. I don't know. It's like I don't want to say it's in poor taste because I can't really justify why it would be over like a war, like army shit, but. It still makes me feel weird and like on the inside,
All right, yeah. I mean, I think the idea of Hardline is interesting. I've signed up for the beta. I haven't gotten an invite yet. If I do, I'm definitely going to try it out. That does sound like an interesting game to me. But it was open first. If you have Battlefield 4 on the PS4 or PC, you can get into the beta whenever you want.
Yeah.
And it is running at 1080p 60 FPS on PS4. So PS4 gets all the betas.
Yeah.
Yes. But let's see. Let's move on. You want to talk some Ubisoft?
Let's talk some Ubisoft.
Just Dance 2015.
Yep, I mean, that was a thing. That's what I wanted from Ubisoft. That's what I was most excited for. And, I got it. I got to watch a bunch of tweens on stage with their smartphones dancing. So,
yeah, there's this new smartphone integration with Just Dance. I think that's weird.
I think that's a cool idea. Like, I don't fucking get it. I don't play dance games, but the idea that it's like, hey, like, you shouldn't have to... Because, it's not about the fucking game. It's just the only reason those dance games exist and are popular is because it's like you can have them at a party, and it's enough to, like, prod people who usually wouldn't, like, just start dancing to just start fucking dancing and have fun. Like, that's the only thing it needs to be. If it's an app on your phone, it can do that just as well as buying, like, a $500 console. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, what systems is Just Dance coming out for at this point? I'm not up on this at all.
I don't know. Okay. It was a Wii thing before, so
right.
I don't know. Like, I think it might just be the phone thing. Like, I think that might be the entirety of what Just Dance 2015 is. I don't know.
Okay, well, we'll see.
They were dancing. They danced.
More stuff from The Division.
Yeah, it was a really dark, again, like going back to... Oh, I should say, I was like going briefly to the Microsoft thing. How the beginning was really dark because the Advanced Warfare trailer ends with a dude getting his arm cut off, and then the Assassin's Creed trailer ends with a first-person decapitation, and then his head being hoisted on a spear, and then the camera turning around and pulling back and showing his head twitching, which is like, that's super fucking dark.
Yeah.
So now going back to The Division, also super dark fucking trailer where it's like the trailer is like, there's a pandemic that has hit New York and everybody is dying, and we're going to just play these sound like audio clips of a woman like singing a lullaby, and then you realize that slowly she's singing a lullaby because her fucking child has died, and that's why she's singing this lullaby. And then like this whole like thing where this guy with like this really artsy trailer where it's like this guy, you only hear audio clips and you kind of see the environment, but like there aren't any like people in it, but you hear them talking and things being moved. And this whole like brief trailer shows the story of like this guy who like loses his girlfriend, and then like he can't take the pressure of living in this post-apocalyptic world, so he fucking kills himself. It's like video games. It's like holy fucking
and shit. Right after Just Dance 2015 too.
Yeah, exactly. They went from that into The Division. Super dark. The Division still looks like The Division.
Okay, has any game with Tom Clancy's name in front of it been this like endlessly talked about? And it feels like it's been a while since we've.
No, because I think it's also because it's like the first really new Tom. Like, what the fuck was the last new Tom Clancy?
I don't know.
Thing like maybe Ghost Recon, which was like an Xbox franchise originally.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I think it's because it's a brand new, like it has nothing to do with Tom Clancy. So
yes, he's dead, so that would be difficult.
Sure, didn't want to bring the whole room down, but sure, okay. Yes.
In any case, so we got Tom Clancy's The Division. We've got The Crew, which still I just like the idea of this because it's the whole United States. You can drive around it. Yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
But I mean, was there anything new with this really?
No, they basically said like the exact same stuff. Only it's like, hey, we know we delayed it, and now it's actually coming out.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm looking forward to The Crew. I'm not guaranteed I'm going to buy that one, but it sounds fun. I think that could be a good racing game. We had more Assassin's Creed Unity. We've already talked about that. Shape up for the Xbox One.
There were guys on stage and they did push-ups.
More Kinect talk at the Ubisoft conference than at the Microsoft conference.
Yeah, exactly. They showed an actual... And I should say, it's as far as like fitness games go, the Shape Up thing actually seemed like it was really well done. Like, it seemed like it would motivate people who don't usually work out and who are gamers that they might actually give it a shot. So.
But it also feels like Microsoft, like, the Kinect is their baby. They just left it with their friend Ubisoft and skipped town.
Yeah.
It's Ubisoft's job now to raise this baby.
Like, Ubisoft is like the only person making Kinect games other than when Microsoft just sort of like resurrects Rare from the dead and forces them to do it.
Yeah. God, poor Rare.
Yeah.
All right. Valiant Hearts, The Great War.
Yeah. Again, Ubisoft's press conference, a roller coaster fucking emotions, because it's like you have like Just Dance, and then New York has been devastated by the most horrific pandemic in the history of mankind, and it's like, hey, like fun workout game, and here's this game based on real letters from World War I, telling this story of these soldiers. And it's a fucking fantastic trailer. Like, this trailer actually made me tear up, because it's like, the whole thing is you have this, like, old voice, like, narrating it, like, talking about, like, back in the day, and, like, talking about all, like, these four characters or whatever that makes up this group. And this dog is there, and the dog's, like, with them the whole time. And then you slowly realize when you get to the end of the trailer that the person narrating it is the fucking dog who has been with them the whole time.
Oh, that's
and
sad.
That the dog is the only one who lives, because the last shot of the trailer is the dog standing in front of a mass fucking grave. Thing is like,
how is that a game? What?
I don't know what the gameplay is. It was the saddest fucking thing. Like, after that happened, like, I just hit pause on the conference and I was like, oh my god, that is the saddest. I don't know what the game is. It is a super sad trailer. It's a great trailer. It's fucking, but they should not have put it right after the happy fucking fitness shit, because it was like, it looks awesome. Like, it's the same engine that makes the Rayman games and that Child of Light game, so it's like visually it's got a great sense of style, and it seems to like have like this powerful emotional core. I don't know what the gameplay is at all. Like, literally they didn't show any like of like what the actual game was, but
I'm gonna
get it because like
you're a dog in the Great War.
Yeah, like it's like, let's take like the saddest war movie that ever exists and like fucking like Old Yeller and put it together, like it's like
all dogs go to Auschwitz.
Yeah, exactly. Sure.
No,
that's not World War I. Okay.
Okay, I know it's not, but I just couldn't think of. Yeah. All dogs go to the trenches does not have the
all
same ring
dogs
to
go
it.
to the Battle of the Bulge. I don't know.
All right, Don Bluth, get on that. And we had this big Rainbow Six reveal, which people were excited about.
On stage, and it was. And this is where, when I said earlier that I feel like myself and a lot of people are now catching on to Ubisoft's bullshit after 2 years, where it's like you had the Watch Dogs thing, and there was like Division last year was like, oh, this is a cool new gameplay thing, but it's like now it just feels like the Division is really far off and is still like the Division demos this year still felt like super scripted demos, and this one was like, okay, this is just 100% absolutely so like a scripted multiplayer Rainbow Six thing where it was like first-person shooter multiplayer match where they breached into this house. Like, it looked cool, but it also smelled like bullshit to me. So I don't know. I'm not a big Rainbow Six guy. I don't have a whole lot to say about it.
I don't give a shit about Rainbow Six, but
like there was a lot of dudes shooting through walls,
and,
like it actually making holes. So that was the thing.
But hey, you know what? At the very least, Ubisoft has a shit ton of games. Yeah. I am going to buy.
It was good. It was a fucking hell of a conference, like especially following EA. Like it was way better.
Okay, I think Ubisoft's got a good lineup. Whether or not I'm going to play all these games of my own will or not, they look great, and it just looks like they've got a really good solid lineup. And we'll talk about that a little more during the PS4 conference because that's where we heard about maybe the most exciting one.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Again, like this was the one like I went through a real emotional experience.
Yes.
it's like yay dancing, oh pandemic, yeah fitness. Oh my god, this is one of the saddest things I've ever seen in trailer form.
All right, awesome. You want to talk Sony?
Let's talk Sony.
All right, I should say
PlayStation.
For the first maybe 25 minutes of the PlayStation conference, it was really in and out for me because the Ustream, they fucking used Ustream, which sucks. Just didn't work. As far as I could tell, it was not working for most people. And it was just in and out, so I saw snippets of things. I missed the entire Order 1886 part. But I was finally able. Luckily, IGN had their own, mirror stream through their proprietary media software, and it worked perfect. I should just remember.
I watched the GameSpot stream, and it was like it started hitching up near the end, but I think that was more my internet than their stream. So
I don't always go to IGN for news or stuff, but their video content when they stream stuff, it's solid, which is nice. But in any case, I did get to see the entire Destiny portion.
Yeah. In the beginning, there was Peter Dinklage.
That was a phenomenal trailer.
Yeah,
I loved that Destiny trailer.
Yeah, it was like more of like a sort of like story trailer than it was a gameplay trailer. But that's cool because we've gotten, I feel like, a lot of gameplay demos. It gave me a lot of story stuff.
It gave me a sense of gravitas and just atmosphere to Destiny that I hadn't really seen before. So I liked that. We also got a lot of details. The beta is coming July 17th exclusively to PlayStation.
Yep.
You're going to get a first look alpha on Thursday.
Yeah, for a few days, I think, too.
Yeah, you and I have both signed up for it. We haven't. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I hope one of us gets into it. I would love to try that game out.
That'd be really cool.
And they announced a new SKU, so we're going to get a white PlayStation 4 with a white DualShock 4, and it'll have Destiny with it, and it ships on September 9th with Destiny.
Yeah.
So, white PS4.
Yeah, I think it's good that, the variety of PlayStation 4 consoles is sort of racially inclusive, At least now we've got black and white, so, not putting the white man down like they always have been, those Sony people.
God. All right. Yes. So, anything else to say about Destiny so far? I mean...
No, Destiny looks awesome, but...
PlayStation is all in on Destiny.
Yeah. It is, weird just how far they're pushing it. It is, sometimes I forget that it's a multi-platform game.
I do, too. And they keep announcing more exclusive stuff. So today we also learned at this conference that there's going to be extra DLC and stuff for Destiny on day one. So it's a lot of stuff. It really does. It does feel genuinely like they are not, just boasting when they say the best place to play it is on PlayStation.
Yeah.
It does have, legitimately a lot more going for it there.
Yeah, it does. So. It's not just the sticker on the front of Watch Dogs. It's 60 minutes of unique PlayStation 4 content,
which sucks. So
yeah, it's just 4 new extra side missions that are the same as every other side mission.
Yeah. All right, but out of Destiny, they did Order 1886, which is one of their really big titles they're pimping right now. I did not. I got to see brief snippets of this. Dude walks down a corridor. That's all I got out of it.
That's more or less.
Okay, that's what it was. All right.
It was that game just visually looks absolutely gorgeous, and it's going for a very interesting sort of cinematic aesthetic. And I'm interested. It's not a game that I need it. I'm going to put a pre-order on it. I need it so bad, but one I'm interested to see the reviews of when it comes out.
No, I'm interested. I want to see what the reviews are, and it sounds cool that it's a new game, new IP that is clearly using the power of the PlayStation 4.
Yeah, like I said, it visually is fucking spectacular. So
yeah,
cool demo.
All right, so we're gonna have to have a brief interlude here because then we got the introduction to Entwined, which was the first of many parts of the show that talked about indie games. So it's a small team of academic game designers, so pretty much students. Entwined, basically, if you haven't seen it so far, it's very colorful. It's a twin-stick game. It looks very much like something that game company would make, but when you actually play it, it's a little different. And the coolest part of this, and honestly, this might be the reason, if I had to declare a winner, it would be Sony, because I thought this was such a cool move, is they announced Entwined. No one had ever heard about it before. We had gotten brief hints of it over the weekend, actually, because the trophy list went out. I don't even think it was the trophies themselves that leaked so much as it was just there was trophies for something. There was a listing. But they announced Entwined, and they said, you can go buy it right now. And I didn't go buy it right then because I was watching the stream, but as soon as the stream ended, I went to the PlayStation Store and bought Entwined for a couple of reasons. I thought it looked gorgeous. It looked like a cool game. It was only $10. And I just thought it was such a neat idea to say, we've got this new game. You can go play it right now. For E3, that seemed pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it's more than just, new DLC or something. This is a game you can go get. And maybe I'll talk about Entwined in more depth on a future podcast because we don't have a ton of time here. It's a really, really good game. Cool. Expect going in, that it is not... It's an indie game. It plays like an indie game.
Yeah.
If you like that game company games, it's a lot like that. This is not that game company, but it feels like Flower or Flow. Not so much Journey. Journey's kind of a different thing. But I like it more than those, in part because it does not use shitty motion controls. But I mean, it's really gorgeous. It doesn't really tell a story, but it kind of does in just terms of how it's got this simple aesthetic design. You play as, on the left stick, you're this orange fish. Right stick, you're this blue bird. They want to be together. They're apart.
Like a dragon.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that dragons were fish birds. But...
Right. Well, here's how you play it. So you've got each one is controlled by one of the sticks. They each go in a circle around half of the screen, and basically, you're going through. It looks almost like a much lower key, like Tempest 2000 or something,
okay,
where
sure, yeah.
you are flying through these kind of. They've got patterns, and you have to match them while you're playing. It's really intuitive. It's really fun. It's got 9 levels. And I liked all the levels. It's pretty much the same thing each level. They add more challenge and new kind of ways to play it each time, but it follows a very similar format. Again, like, if you've played Flower, every Flower level as you go around and liberate the flowers, and then you have this part at the end. It's that kind of thing, but, I mean, it's so gorgeous. It's one of the most gorgeous games I've ever looked at. I'm genuinely interested to see how they port this to the PS3 because just the color depth and everything is such a big part of this, and there are parts with a lot of polygons on screen. So we'll see. It's a really, really cool game. It's not just it was fun and it was really engaging as a game and as a set of mechanics, and it has a really good learning curve, I feel like, and difficulty curve. But it's also it's very relaxing. It's got this great tone and atmosphere. Honestly, it feels a lot to me also like Proteus, which is one of my favorite games of the last few years, where you get in this very meditative mood while playing it. And it's got easily my favorite game soundtrack of the year so far. The music, which I played a little bit of at the top of the show, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous soundtrack. It is definitely in the tradition of like the That Game Company model of indie games, but more power to them. Those are great games. So I like getting more of those. And Entwined, it's cool to me because Sony, talks about a lot at this show, this conference, what they're doing with indie developers, how they are uniquely fostering indie developers, what they have that other people don't. And they say, we've got this Entwined game. This is something unique to PlayStation. You can play it right now. And what better way to prove your point? I finished the show. I go play Entwined. I feel like everything they told me was true because that is direct evidence of it, which is that this is not a game I would play anywhere else. This is uniquely PlayStation. This is why I bought a PlayStation. I love having it for this kind of game. So, really good. I definitely recommend it.
Cool.
Infamous Second Son, standalone DLC.
Yes, Infamous First Light.
Yes. So it's with the character Fetch, played by Laura Bailey. I'm excited for that.
Yeah. It seems like it was just sort of a little CG trailer, but it seems like you can kind of infer what the game's going to be about.
Right. It's coming out in August. You don't have to have Infamous Second Son to play it either.
Yeah, kind of like that Assassin's Creed Freedom Cry thing. They did a similar thing with that.
Yep. So a lot of people were comparing it to Far Cry Blood Dragon, but I feel like that's a bad comparison.
Yeah,
that's not
very different. Yeah. That's not. You can't compare anything to Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. Like that's just that's no.
But I liked Fetch a lot, and I liked Infamous Second Son, so I'm excited for some new content in that. But then the first really big reveal of the conference was Little Big Planet 3.
Yeah, which just kind of happened Like, I feel like I, blinked and it was like, what? Oh my god, they're playing Little Big Planet 3. What the fuck? What did that...
I actually kind of liked that.
I thought it was cool that it was just like, they're just like, yeah, fuck it. We're just playing this game. Like, we're just going to play this co-op game. And we're going to be really, really awkwardly bad at playing it. But we're just playing this game.
But you know what? I thought that was endearing on the level of it was a true demo. They were just playing it. It wasn't scripted or anything. It was
that one person couldn't wall jump.
No, they couldn't.
It was like that guy missed like this really easy jump, and it's like, just fucking give me the controller.
Yes. Well, that will be a feature on the PlayStation in the future.
Yeah, they should have demoed it that way.
But hey, this is good. It's coming out this year. Yeah. Sony needed a big, nice, first-party IP coming out this year. So I'm glad they have Little Big Planet 3. I've not played a Little Big Planet game before. I will probably jump in with this one. Part of what's cool about it, as Shuhei Yoshida himself came out to announce,
when he was on stage,
all of the user-created levels for 1 and 2 are going to be available on this also. Yeah. I don't know how they did that, but that's cool.
Yeah, that seems cool. Like, I'm not way into, I don't particularly like platformers, and I'm not way into, the user-generated thing, so I was not interested, but it seems like it's a cool game for people who are into that.
Yeah.
Sure,
so, definitely. All right.
But as you said, now here is, for me, this was one of my favorite announcements, because this was also, you have motherfucking Shuhei Yoshida on stage. He should have been out there more, but, so he's on stage, and he announces a game that has been kind of leaked a little bit, known as Project Beast from Software, which is the studio who makes the Souls games, so Demon Souls, Dark Souls, and Dark Souls 2. And so then they start playing this trailer, and at the top of the trailer it says directed by Hidetaka Miyazaki, who is the guy who was the lead game designer on Demon Souls and Dark Souls, but was not on Dark Souls 2. So he is the game director for this new game that, again, it was previously known as Project Beast. Now we know it's called Bloodborne, and they showed this CG trailer, which looked fucking awesome. The Dark Souls games, it's very much seems like in that style of, it's a sort of weird Victorian post-apocalyptic kind of universe thing, but it's still, identifiably Dark Souls-y to me, and it looks fucking cool, so...
Is this a PS4 exclusive?
Yes, okay. I believe so.
That's a big get.
I'm pretty sure Sony's funding it, so...
That feels like a pretty big get for them.
Yeah, and so... Man, if because, Dark Souls 2 was pretty good, but ultimately disappointing to me. If this is, a proper, spiritual sequel to Dark Souls, and it's really awesome, that's a huge exclusive for me, so...
Yeah. But, fuck all of that. Yeah, Far Cry 4...
Yeah.
Which
is coming out this November, which is what? I had no... maybe that was announced before when, the box art came out.
It was. I was surprised you didn't know that.
I had no idea. All the fucking stuff about the box art was everyone, calling it racist when it's you have no idea anything about the context of this image. How can you assert it's racist? But, yeah, I had no idea that it was coming out this year, and that's awesome. How was everyone not talking about, Far Cry 3? It wasn't just me. Most of the gaming press agreed Far Cry 3 was easily one of the best games of 2012. How is not everyone going, holy fucking shit, it's coming out this year? Because it was announced this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hey, and you know what? This is one of the best gameplay teases I think we've ever seen.
Yeah, the fucking demo was awesome. So at Ubisoft, they had... a small, not that small, 5-minute, basically what seemed like it was the opening cutscene of the game, basically, which is sort of conceptually very similar to the opening of Far Cry 3, where you have this, white dude who's moving into this sort of, kind of exotic location, and then he encounters this crazy psychopath dude. Well, this time the psychopath is voiced by Troy Baker, and that was cool, cool setup, but then the Sony had this, very long gameplay demo, which if you played Far Cry 3 and you thought Far Cry 3 was fucking awesome, Far Cry 4 looks like it's the same brand of fucking awesome. So
only more of it, because elephants, motherfucker.
Exactly. Elephants, grappling hook thingy, big-ass goddamn, LMG. Yeah.
It's cool.
Looked fucking awesome. I immediately pre-ordered that as soon as I saw it, so.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, so Far Cry 4, definitely, I will absolutely play that. I am psyched for it. That was a great gameplay trailer, and it's got Troy Baker.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if we don't have a Troy Baker game every month, why are we gamers, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, what is the human species doing if Troy Baker's not in every video game?
Yes. All right. So this is the part of the show where they started mixing it up a little bit. For instance, here they talked about how PlayStation 4 gamers, you'll be able to invite other players to join their game online, even if their friends don't own the game with the Far Cry 4 thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is cool. I don't even know how that works.
Yeah,
but
I have no idea how that works
cool.
either, but it sounds cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of neat. Then we got the CGI trailer for Dead Island 2.
Sure, like I was happy that they went for a tone that is more achievable than. Did you ever see the original Dead Island trailer, which was like the girl who like zombie who fell out of the window, and like the trailer plays backwards with sad piano music?
No,
it is like one of the greatest trailers I have ever seen. It is so sad, but it is like. I never played Dead Island, but Dead Island is not the game that trailer was made for. Like, it's really clear. So this trailer was like kind of funny and weird and more kind of in keeping with the tone of what the series seems to be. I've never played them, but it seems like it's probably a good game. I don't know.
It was a decent little trailer. Nothing. Yeah. Some people loved it. I wouldn't go that far or anything, but we'll see. They talked about some exclusives about Disney Infinity on the PlayStation.
Yeah, Hulk.
Hulk will be there. Yeah, I don't care about Disney Infinity, but whatever.
I care about Hulk. So
yeah. Magica 2.
That was a really funny trailer.
That was a really good trailer. Yeah. I don't even know what Magica is, but that's
like neat. A PC co-op thing, I think.
Yeah. Everyone was excited about this, and I've never heard of this game. What's Grim Fandango, Sean?
So everyone was excited because it's a Tim Schafer adventure game. But I think it's like one of the handful of those. Like Monkey Island is like that was also one of his. Like Grim Fandango, I think has never been remade in any real capacity. So like having access to it is very difficult. So it's it's a adventure game from that era in like the 90s when people had like thought adventure games was like a good genre.
All right, well it's coming to
like adventure games are awful.
It's going to PS4 and Vita, so cool.
Yeah,
I guess
I don't know. It's not necessarily something for me because I think those games don't age very well. Even though like Tim Schafer, I think is a great sort of like writer and stuff, and I think his games are funny. It's like the actual game is just obtuse at some point. So
yeah. Well, then we got into a big indie kind of block of things. And we had a whole series of previews from Devolver Digital.
Yeah.
And, man, this was the part of the conference where I liked every one of those Devolver Digital mini trailers. Yeah. Those all look like good games to me.
Yeah, you had like...
That just seems cool. Yeah.
And top it all off, the sequel to your Game of the Year of 2013, which was a game that came
out... It was not my Game of the Year. It was number 5 on the list.
Oh, sure, yeah. One of your Games of the Year of 2013 of a game that came out in 2012. Sequel of which
came out on the platform I played it on.
Hotline Miami 2. Wrong number.
I am excited for that game a whole fuck of a lot. Yeah. All right. Then
Devolver Digital Games, like the thing there also is that they will come first on like console launch exclusive or whatever, like their weird term, the console debut exclusive on PS4.
Right. But those they all looked like really they were effective little mini trailers because they all got me interested in just the basic premise of these little indie games, and I thought that was neat. So we had all of those. We had Suda51. They're making a new game
called Let It Die.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell a whole lot of what that was from the trailer. I don't play a lot of Suda51 games. People really think I guess he has like a really unique creative voice. So
yeah. But then the next two reveals were this was my favorite part of the whole show.
Yeah, definitely.
We had the designer of Journey and the composer of Journey. They've got this new studio, Giant Squid, or what's it called?
Yeah,
Giant Squid. And they're making a game called Abzu. And that trailer was so gorgeous. I just cannot wait for that game.
Yeah. Like, it's definitely, like you were talking about, like, with Entwined, it seems like is in that kind of, like, realm of indie game. Or Journey, obviously, is another comparison point. And, Journey is a fucking masterpiece, so...
Yes, but game of the show for me, and I think for a lot of people, is No Man's Sky. It's this procedurally generated exploration through all of space and time, apparently. Not time, but all space, But it is, it's just, you can't overstate how big their ambitions for this are.
Yeah.
You start on this planet, you're exploring the planet. If you were just on the planet, that would be enough for one game, it looks like. But then you get in a ship, and you're out in space, and you're going through asteroid fields, and then you go to another planet, and you can explore that planet, and then the guys come out and talk about the game, and it's only 4 dudes developing this fucking game.
It's this really tiny, like Hello Games is this very small studio, and they're like a small team in that small studio.
Yeah, and yet it's this massive, infinite, procedurally generated world that will be different for every player. It sounds so cool.
Yeah, like it's definitely... they showed this game last year at E3, and it looked awesome then. Like, this was a little more substantial of a demo, and it still looks really cool. Like, there's a part of me that is a little bit sort of cynical about, like, the capacity to achieve that, and it actually, like, in execution being as cool as it is in your imagination. But, hey, like, it's still a really awesome idea, and I really, really hope they pull it off, because that would be yeah, that would be like one of the best games ever.
Look, if it's just Proteus and you could just explore space, I'm good with that. That's enough for me. If it looks like it's more than that, though, but if it was just you got to go and explore and look at stuff, and that was the game, and it was just kind of this infinite, that would be enough for me. So we'll see if obviously there's more to it than that. So I'm excited. Let's see. Then they talked about Project Morpheus, a very brief amount. They were basically just saying that they will have demos on the show floor.
Yeah, I mean that thing is so far away from it being an actual product that I didn't even necessarily think they would mention it at all.
Yeah, so. They did a kind of surprisingly long bit about free-to-play games.
Yeah, where they're like, free-to-play games are like the future, and it's like they kind of probably are, but maybe in a not cool way.
They're all pretty shitty.
Sure, yeah, and it's like also,
Hearthstone is fun.
Yeah, but that's also like, I don't know, it's a trading card game, so I don't even think of it as being free-to-play. It's just a trading card game.
So they talked a lot about free to play, but then this is where we got in. This is where they kind of were mixing things up, talking about more than just games. This was an interesting part of the show to me. PlayStation Now, they announced it's going to have open beta for everyone on July 31st. PS4 to start. They'll bring it out to PS3, Vita later on.
And they'll be streaming PS3 games at first.
Yep. So we'll see. I hope that works. I'm interested to see what it is.
It's a cool idea for a service. I hope the latency is low enough to make it feasible.
Then they talked about Vita briefly. I do wish there would have been more Vita at this conference.
Yeah, like they talked about Vita about as much as like they've talked about Vita for like the past 3 years of like, there are games, they're coming out on the Vita. We're not going to show them or talk about them, but there are.
But here's the thing: the Vita has really better support than anyone says about it.
Yeah, the Vita is a great machine, but it's also like, but almost nobody is making like unique titles for it at this point. Yeah. Its value is in like developing a backlog of titles, and then like it's a functionality in concert with the PS4.
Yeah, and even if a lot of the indie titles that come out to Vita are coming out to those other systems too, it's like the Vita has a steady stream of really good games coming out for it, and I think Sony needs to pitch that message a little bit more. Like they said, over 100 Vita titles are in development today, and that was their big statement. What they need to say is over 100 Vita titles are in development today, and every week and every month we've got new titles coming out to the Vita that are good and quality, and they're not all Uncharted Golden Abyss. But in many cases, they're probably better than that. It's interesting to me.
Oh, when you said they're not all like Uncharted Golden Abyss, I thought you were saying this like most of them are probably good games because Uncharted Golden Abyss is an awful piece of shit.
Okay.
I took that the opposite of what you were trying to say.
I just meant that they're not big like that.
Sure,
Uncharted Golden Abyss is a blockbuster.
Sure.
It's not necessarily good,
like,
but it's...
Yeah, it's a triple blockbuster the same way Transformers 2 is.
Okay, sure, but, what I said was true.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's all. I think Vita, I think there's a lot of benefits to Vita. They could just slightly adjust their message there and try to pitch that a little more. If you have a PS3 or a PS4, you should have a Vita. It is a great tool to have in concert with those systems.
Yeah.
Not even for stuff like remote play. It's just cool stuff like, if you want to play, for instance, Fez just came out on all three. You can, play it on PS4, and it's got this great cross-save compatibility, and if you want to play it somewhere else, you take your Vita and you can keep playing Fez, and a lot of games are like that, so that's cool. Let's see. PlayStation, this was one of my favorite announcements. The PlayStation TV, which in Japan, when it was announced last year, was the PlayStation Vita TV. Mm-hmm. It's coming to America, ships for $99, but there will be a bundle that'll be $140 that'll come with a memory card and a DualShock 3, and it'll also come with the Lego Movie game.
And an HDMI cable.
If you don't know what the Vita TV is, it's just this little kind of set-top box. It can play all your Vita games, which means it can also play all your PSP and PS1 Classic games. Yeah. It can also stream, remote play all your PS4 games. So it's there. They were pitching it more here as an extension of your PS4 and of the PlayStation brand than they were the Vita. But I want it for the Vita stuff. I've already put my pre-order on this. So I'm excited for this. Yeah. I might have to go do that bundle though, because I was just thinking if it doesn't come with a memory card, I might as well do the bundle and just get the fucking memory card.
Sure, yeah.
But we'll see. I want to know if I can just put my memory card from the Vita in there.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same memory card.
Okay, then I don't need another memory card for it.
Yeah, no, of course you don't.
Okay,
that's cool. It comes bundled. The bundle comes with a Vita memory. It's just a Vita memory card.
Right. Okay. Well, and this was kind of interesting. The PlayStation TV in the U.S. is black. In Japan, it was white.
Yeah. Again, there's some weird race stuff going on with Sony. I don't understand.
All right. Then we got gameplay footage from Mortal Kombat X.
Yeah.
It was violent.
It's Mortal Kombat. Like, I'm not way into Mortal Kombat, but that was Mortal Kombat. They punched each other, and like bones were broken, and They're like two dudes who look the same, but their color palettes were different because that was an easy way to make multiple characters in the 90s.
Yep. All right. Was it now when we got the big Powers monologue?
Yeah, now is when they shifted into TV.
Talk about this, Sean.
Okay, sure. So Powers, let's just start there. Powers is a graphic novel series, I think it's published by Image, where it's Brian Michael Bendis is the writer. I can't remember the artist's name. For those who don't know, Brian Michael Bendis, for me, significantly, he's the writer for Ultimate Spider-Man, and so I think he's a really, really good comic book writer. And Powers is the series where the basic premise of it is it's sort of like this unique superhero universe, and the main characters are these guys who are detectives, and they solve cases revolving with people who have superpowers. And so if, like, they find some, like, you know, basically if, like, Superman somehow got killed on the street and his body was found in an alleyway, these are the people who would investigate that crime. And so that's the premise. I've only read a couple of volumes of Powers, but it's really cool. I've always been meaning to, like, pick up the series again. It's a really cool idea. I think it's a really cool execution. And so this announcement was basically they brought Brian Michael Bendis out on stage to talk about how basically last year at E3, Sony was like, hey, we're going to make unique, like, video content for people to, like, Sony people in our Sony ecosystem. This is the first announcement of an actual project out of that. And it seems like they're like well into production with it since it's going to be coming out in December. And so Brian Michael Bendis was out there, and he basically took like 10 minutes to say, we're making Powers, and it's a TV show, and it will be like you can see it for free if you're a PS Plus subscriber.
Yeah, this is interesting. So it sounds like they're trying to do what Netflix has done, what Amazon Instant Video has done, where they're going to make their own original programming. This is a little different, though, because PlayStation Plus is not a streaming service. Yeah. So, but it'll have original TV. I'm curious about this. I understand that Powers is a good comic book series.
Yeah, like I'm just interested in it from like the perspective of like I just want to see a Powers TV show. Like I don't know anything about like the Sony shit.
I just don't expect it's going to be good. The people he talked about, the people they have working on it, those do not sound like particularly talented creative people. I don't know. We'll see. So few of what I think Amazon, Netflix, and everyone else who is not a TV company has been doing has been good. Netflix has Orange is the New Black, and House of Cards is horribly overrated, and Amazon has nothing good, and Hulu has nothing good. So it's like, I don't know if Sony can really break out of that. Sony at least is a production company on some level. They make movies and TV shows. So maybe this will be good if it's at the level of some other Sony productions, you know. But we'll see. They talked way too damn long about it.
Yeah, they showed concept art. Like, you just don't...
Yeah.
You don't do that, man. Like, you should... Like, when you announce this thing, and I get it's just because it was too early... It's like you maybe shouldn't have really like spent too much time on it. It's like you needed to show something from the show. Like if you're going to do this, you had to show at least like a minute of like a trailer or something. Like you need like you can't just have Brian Michael Bendis walk out on stage at a gaming conference and spend like 10 minutes talking about the TV show. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they talked about Ratchet and Clank the movie.
Yeah.
Why are they making a Ratchet and Clank the movie?
I don't know.
Looks horrible.
Basically seems like it's a fucking like DreamWorks movie anyways.
I guess. We'll see. And I like Ratchet and Clank games okay, but it's like
I've never really played them. So.
Yeah. But it was funny when they started showing the preview for Ratchet and Clank the movie, I tweeted, I don't really give a shit about Ratchet and Clank movie. If they announced a game, that would be neat. But then right afterwards, they're like, and we're remaking the original Ratchet and Clank for PS4. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, cool. I'll play that. I don't care about the movie, but I would like, that sounds interesting to me.
Sure.
So, oh well. Then they got back into games.
Yes.
With a big trailer for The Last of Us Remastered on PS4 coming out July 29th. And it had a lot of spoilers. People were weirdly angry about that, I thought.
Yeah, but it's like, I don't know. Like, if I thought everybody played that fucking game at this point.
Yeah, and it also, they said...
the trailer even said, like, hey, there's spoilers. It's like...
And also, there was nothing in that trailer where if you had not played Last of Us, you would have that experience ruined. There was nothing.
Exactly. Like, there was nothing in... It wasn't like they showed, like, this complete uncut scene that, like, gave you, like, this tremendous amount of context for, like everything. It was a trailer.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, you know, you could show the last, like, 5 seconds of a movie in a trailer and nobody would have any idea until they see the movie. It's like, it's not a spoiler if you don't have any context for what it is.
Yeah. So, you know, they could have done it differently, but also Last of Us, this is the game of the last generation. They want to celebrate it for this package. It makes sense. I am so stoked to get my hands on this, just to see it in that quality. I mean, just seeing... I didn't... On the stream, obviously, it was in super low quality, but when I watched it afterwards, just that 1080p at 60 frames per second, That's going to be. It looks substantially different, and that's cool.
Yeah.
I still am not going to pay $60 for it out of the gate.
Yeah,
but if there's
they haven't talked about pricing stuff, I really hope there's an upgrade.
Yeah, because I would like to play it again, and I'd like to play it with those graphics because that sounds really neat. Like some people were even commenting, oh, this doesn't look like a movie anymore though because of the high frame rate, and I'm like, that's fine. It's going to look like a smoother movie. It's fine.
Sure, it's going to play a lot better.
Yeah, so I'm excited, and you get to use the DualShock 4 with it finally.
Yes.
All right. Then we had a big Metal Gear Solid 5 teaser, and I just... How do they even market Metal Gear at this point? Because if you haven't played every fucking game, there's nowhere to go in for you.
Sure.
I don't get it. I would love to start playing Metal Gear Solid games, but at the minimum, to play 5, I would have to play Peace Walker on the PSP, then play Ground Zeroes, then play The Phantom Pain, and I would probably still be missing too much.
I mean, although I don't think that many people played Peace Walker, and I think everybody played Ground Zeroes, so...
but a lot of people commented that it was really unintelligible if you didn't play Peace Walker, and
but that's why they put in apparently an 11-page novella.
Right. You shouldn't have to do that. That's
That's like I'm keeping up with Metal Gear Solid by just reading Wikipedia summaries. I've never played a minute of any of their games. I'm fine. I know what happened in the trailer.
All right. I mean, it's a good looking trailer and everything. Yeah. So here's my question: is have they confirmed this or not? I wanted to ask you. Ground Zeroes was on everything. It was totally multi-platform.
Yeah. This is multi-platform. This is on everything too.
No, I know, but is it also on PS3 and 360 still?
Oh,
that's what I was asking.
Maybe.
I would not expect it because it's such a big game. It sounds like, but
maybe. But I would say probably not, but maybe.
I know this is PS4, Xbox One, but is it next gen exclusive or what? It's because it does not look like they could put this game on 360 or PS3. But yeah.
So
we're looking shit up.
Oh, you're looking up shit up too?
Actually, my internet's off, so you look it up.
Okay, I'll look it up.
I'm conserving battery power for the podcast.
All right, what's the next thing to talk about then while I look this up, Jonathan?
Well, GTA 5 coming to next gen indeed.
How excited for you are that?
I'm going to give it another try on this. I've been watching my little brother started playing the game. I realize when I say little brother, it sounds like my 10-year-old brother is playing GTA 5. He's not. That'd be terrible.
Yeah, it's your 8-year-old brother is playing.
My younger brother is 19. He's old enough to play GTA. But I would like to get in on this just because I do like playing GTA 5, at least for the dicking around. And there's a lot of the campaign I do like. And I do like the idea of playing it with the better graphics, especially because when I played this, it was the digital version on PS3, which is notably inferior in just about every way to the other versions. Disc-based versions, I should say. So I would like to be able to see the game in its full glory, and it looked even better than I was maybe expecting.
Yeah,
on that trailer.
The upgrade's pretty significant. When I've looked at some of the direct comparisons and stuff, and it's it's not something that I want to pay $60 for. But if they if that upgrade thing, if that's the thing that they will keep on doing that they did when the console launched, I would probably pay up to $40 to upgrade it because I do want to play Grand Theft Auto 5 again, and I mostly want to be able to just, if I want to, drop into Grand Theft Auto 5 and just mess around without having to load up my 360 and do that.
Definitely, and I thought this was a pretty big reveal for Sony to get because that's a big game that's coming to next gen in terms of re-releases. Yeah, so that was cool. If you are one of the 10 people still playing GTA Online, you can transfer your 360 and PS3 saves. Yeah. So
I mean that's something they needed to do, and it's good that they're doing it.
Yeah. So what do you have on Metal Gear?
It is. According to Wikipedia, at least, it is coming out on PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Xbox 360, and Xbox One.
All right, interesting. Okay.
Also, apparently, Big Boss is also sometimes referred to as both Punish Snake and Venom Snake, and I did not know that.
We are getting to the end of the show. Batman Arkham Knight had a big demo, and I thought this was fantastic. It really sold me on the idea of bringing the Arkham games to next gen because it was just so much bigger. Yeah. Batman seemed so much more powerful and kind of awe-inspiring, and then when he got in the Batmobile, that was fantastic. I was watching this at this point on I had plugged it into my desk speaker system, and the subwoofer was just in overdrive on that. And then I thought the Scarecrow reveal at the end was really cool. Some of that stuff.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think graphically it looks really, really good. And I love those Arkham games, so...
Yeah.
I've already seen some of the other footage, so it's nothing was really a huge surprise about the gameplay footage, but it looks as good as it always did, so...
And to end the trailer, or to end the conference, and I think this was a pretty effective way to do it, we had the teaser trailer for Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. And, I've never played an Uncharted game, but that trailer was really good, I thought.
Yeah, it was a good trailer. And it sort of, confirmed some things where it is Nathan Drake is the main character, where that was not explicit in the teaser trailer they showed before. And yeah, it was a good trailer. Like, I have my qualms about the franchise, but I do really like the Uncharted games. In particular, I like the story and I like the characters. And it's a huge relief to me that it's like, I don't know, I felt like there's so much coded into that trailer of like, this is the last one.
Right.
It's like, it's called Uncharted 4, A Thief's End, and like the entire dialogue that the trailer has going on, sort of like the background, is Nathan talking to Sully and being like, come on, man, let's just do this one last time. So he's like, fuck it, okay. One more time, Nathan. It's like, all right, like, I will do it. I will buckle in for one more Uncharted. After this, I don't think they can do it anymore. It doesn't seem like they plan on it.
I think that's really cool and interesting, is that they are very clearly pitching this from the moment they've introduced it now. I know they had announced they were working on Uncharted before, but the moment we see anything from the game, it's, this is it, this is the last one. They are putting all their cards on the table right off the bat with that. I think that's cool. That definitely, how rare is that in games at this point to know this is, Arkham Knight is actually going to be the same way. They've announced that as the end.
Like, well, at least for Rocksteady's take on the Batman trilogy or whatever, like, very specific way WB has had that phrase.
Right. But, so that's cool to me, and it'll free up Naughty Dog to do more in the future, but it sounds neat that they'll get to do at least one of these in the next-gen space.
Yeah.
Because, I'm definitely, though, it made me want to go back and play at least Uncharted 2 and 3 to kind of get up to speed on that. I know you don't have to, like, it's not a plot-heavy series in that way. But...
it's like Indiana Jones, and it's like... It's nice to know the characters, but you don't need to.
Yeah. But I don't need to play Uncharted 1, right?
No, I would not. I don't recommend it.
All right.
Very good game.
Sony conference.
Yes.
Good, bad? What was it?
The guy with the gun. It's good, I thought.
It was good.
Yeah.
It was too long.
It was too long. It's sort of, and this is like, Microsoft, their conference aired on Spike, so it had to be very trim and to the point, and I think that really helped their conference. And Sony is, at the end of the day, they're not on TV, so like their conferences are always kind of bloated, and it would have been nice if they had cut out some of the fat. But I did, like, if you take out some of like the fatigue I felt in their conference, I think their conference was the most interesting. I thought they had the most interesting games there. Like, I'm way more excited for Far Cry 4 than I am for Assassin's Creed Unity. I'm way more excited for Destiny than I am for Call of Duty. I'm way more excited for Project Beast or Bloodborne than I am for anything that Microsoft should, then almost maybe like anything out the show if it lives up to its potential. Like, I think Order looks really cool. I think Uncharted 4 is like a game I'm interested in, so yeah.
I thought they had a bunch of those great AAA games, but also I think
No Man's Sky, like their indie stuff was great.
Yeah, their continuing commitment to indie games, and the indie games we saw was just really cool. And again, they announced Entwined, it looked awesome, and you could go play it right away.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And at the end of the day, even if they spent way too much time talking about it, I want to see a Powers TV show. I have no idea if it's going to be good, but I don't have to pay money to find out if it's going to be good. I just have to wait for them to make it and then watch an episode.
All right, sounds good. So yes, that's the first day of E3. Let's talk a little bit here about Nintendo, which went the next morning, but not via a press conference in the way the other guys did. This was a Nintendo digital event.
Oh, did they not call it Nintendo Direct? Did they call it?
They did not. They called it their Nintendo Digital Event. But I think
they should call it the Nintendo Indirect.
Yes, Nintendo Indirect. So let's talk about this, Sean.
All right. I should say, like, I guess neither of us watched it, like, actually watched the event, right?
Yeah, I followed it live. We've watched some of the videos. Why don't I take us through some of the major pieces of news, and then we'll pick it apart.
Sure.
So Nintendo, they started off, obviously, as they would. They talked about Smash Bros. A little bit. They talked more about the 3DS version. I know for the 3DS game, they talked about some new game modes. They also announced it's coming out in October.
Yes,
so they just talked about 3DS a little bit, the Smash Bros. For that. Still looks like they're just going to be called Smash Bros. For 3DS and Smash Bros. For Wii U, which that's horribly uncreative, Nintendo. Be creative.
What has happened to people with names?
I know.
Like, what is this? Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, Rise of the Tomb Raider, Smash Brothers for the 3DS. Fuck you.
Yeah. All right,
put a fucking name on your game.
Nintendo is taking some cues from Skylanders. They are making Amiibo figures. Amiibo figures, if you didn't get that. Have you not read about this yet?
I know about like the figurine stuff, but I've never heard what is an Amiibo.
It's the
Is it
Nintendo
like an
figurine.
Amiibo?
Yeah, it's AMIIBO, and it's like you've got a Mario amiibo. It's like a little figurine. You put it on your gamepad, and then Mario comes into the game, and it's like
what is amiibo? Like, what is that? What is that supposed to be? Like, is it supposed to be like Amigo? Is that what?
I don't know.
What the fuck is that? Like,
Amiibo?
what is it? I want to know. Like, where did they pull that out of their ass?
So who knows? So it's Skylanders. It's Disney Infinity. They're going to have support for that in Smash Bros. Wii, and they will have support for it in Mario Kart 8 at some point. They announced the next Yoshi game, which will be called Yoshi's Woolly World. It's coming out in 2015, I believe, on the 3DS.
It seems like it's going to be like
Kirby's Epic Yarn.
Yeah, Kirby's Epic Yarn, only with Yoshi.
Yeah.
So 2 years old.
Yep. And I thought this was a cool one. This is a game I'm looking forward to. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. If you've played Super Mario 3D World, there are these Captain Toad levels where they're like these little puzzle levels with Captain Toad that make pretty fun use of the gamepad and stuff. That's being expanded to a full game. That sounds interesting to me. They then announced their new Zelda game. They showed some stuff. It was basically Eiji Onuma, the leader of the Zelda series since Majora's Mask. He was talking about it. We'll go into that later.
Yeah.
They announced Bayonetta 2 as a Wii U exclusive.
We've known about that for like 2 years.
But when it comes out, it'll be paired with a remake or a re-release of the original Bayonetta.
Okay, sure.
Hyrule Warriors, if you haven't heard about that, that's the Dynasty Warriors game with some Hyrule characters thrown in. That's coming out this year on September 26th. Kirby is getting a new game himself, Kirby and the Rainbow Curse, in 2015. Then they've got a new Xenoblade Chronicles.
Yeah, that's the game they showed for like the past 2 years, but haven't showed anything.
I know, it's kind of disappointing. Then the big announcement here, this was a poorly kept secret. It's Mario Maker, where you can make your own custom 2D Mario levels. It's for the Wii U. I was kind of wondering if it was going to be for the 3DS, but it is a Wii U game. You'll use the gamepad and the touchscreen capabilities to build Mario levels. That sounds kind of fun. They'll have Splatoon, which is this 8-player 4-on-4 action online game. You cover people in ink. It sounds kind of fun. It's like a little, you've got your territories and you fight and whatnot. It seems like the Nintendo version of a online multiplayer shooter or something.
Oh, and that sounds awful.
Yeah, probably. But people said I did not get to watch the video for this, but everyone in the room or watching it, all the journalists were enthusiastic about it. They said it looked interesting. And then they announced a new character for Super Smash Bros. They just chose to end their whole conference on announcing the character Palutena for Super Smash Bros. Wii U.
The goddess Palutena
Yeah.
from the Kid Icarus games.
Yes. So if you don't know who Palutena or Kid Icarus is, don't worry. That just makes you a person, I think, right?
Yeah, that makes you a respectable human being.
They had a cool little anime thing for this, though. I liked that video.
That was a cool little anime thing, but it was also just like, kind of like, well, that's not
a character.
It seems like a weird thing to put so much effort into making this little animated, like, 1-minute video to then announce you're putting in, like, the least interesting, most dull character from, like, the worst Nintendo franchise you could possibly conjure up.
You know who they still haven't fucking announced for Smash Bros?
Waluigi.
Why has Waluigi never been in a goddamn Smash Bros game?
Because he's like he is the least interesting, most non-character from like the best Nintendo franchise.
Yeah, but he's the only one they haven't put in there yet. I feel like Waluigi should be above Palutena.
Yeah, but I think Birdo is above all of those.
Yeah, where's Birdo? Exactly. I didn't thought of that. Birdo's the best.
Fuck yeah.
Birdo.
All of her attack is just like shooting an egg, but...
You know what pisses me off in Mario Kart 8? There's a lot of stuff that pisses me off in Mario Kart 8. They put in all 8 of the Koopa kids in that game. All 8, and they still don't have Birdo. What? What the fuck that? Where's Birdo?
That would be so... How fucking hilarious would it be if, like, all the rest of the new characters in Smash Brothers were just all the Koopa kids, and they were the same character with different skins?
I want it to be like one massive ice climber where you control all 8 at once.
Yeah, it's just like this huge line.
All right. So, Sean, what sticks out to you from Nintendo? Let's start with Zelda, because...
Yeah, I mean, that's the only one of the things that were said that interests me in any way.
They barely showed anything
Although I will
from it.
say, just the word amiibo, that really sort of like piques my curiosity.
Okay.
I'm sure I'll be disappointed when I look into that a bit more, but...
They showed very, very little from Zelda. We got one screenshot for a while and then a little bit of video footage. Mostly it was Aonuma talking about their philosophy for this game. And it's basically, it's like...
Open world.
Yeah, it's open world.
Skyrim, Zelda. Which,
they needed to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's so... It is like, again, like this is... It's hard to really talk about it because it's like... It was them saying... This is going to be an open world Zelda, and then showing in the background an image of Link on Epona in the middle of a giant field. And it's like, it was a big field with a huge view distance, but like that's not... anything to basically like judge the game on. So it's like Zelda has needed to be shaken up since Ocarina of Time. Really, like every Zelda that at least I played, all the 3D ones since Ocarina of Time, just feel like they are so attached to what Ocarina of Time was, because Ocarina of Time was such an amazing game that they couldn't like sort of move beyond it and do something different, do something new, do something creative with the franchise. And so, like, you know, if making it open world allows that to happen, I mean, but the thing is, like, Zelda was already, like, it's always been open world, and it was like, I guess they're saying we're going to make it more open world. Like, it very specifically sounded like they wanted to make it Skyrim Zelda to me.
Well,
like,
let me say...
the wording they used.
Let me say one thing. They did do this recently on A Link Between Worlds, which came out on the 3DS last year. I don't know if you would call that open world, because it is this top-down perspective.
Yeah, it's
but
linked to the past. It's the world is linked to the past was.
Well, except you can do the dungeons in any order.
Sure, I mean, that's...
But you haven't played the game. Everyone I've talked to who's played that game, and every review I've heard of that game said that was a big deal for that game. Okay, that game was different than other Zelda games. It was hugely acclaimed. Everyone was noting that it felt a lot more exciting than recent Zelda games, even being like, you know, clearly based on Link to the Past, allowing for this kind of, you could do it in whatever order you want, and it was much more open in that sense. That did make a difference, and I assume that's the main thing they're talking about here, is that it's going to be, I still think it's probably going to be ordered in a certain way, because Zelda games are just done like that. They are more narrative heavy than a Skyrim, which is more built around your side quests and stuff, sure. I feel like. But, you know, I think the idea that you can go... Yes, Zelda games have always been open world in a sense, but probably what they mean is that if they still have the dungeon stuff and whatnot, it'll be a little more open in that sense. And hopefully they'll open it up even more beyond that. But, yeah, we don't really fully know what they're doing. If they wanted to make it full Skyrim-esque and have, you know, the full kind of side quest kind of thing and stuff like that, too, that would be interesting. But
it'd be interesting, but then it's also, you know, and then it just gets into this weird area about, like, at what point would it then not even be a Zelda game if you go so far away from the, like, dungeon setup?
Yeah.
Is it now just The Witcher 3 or Skyrim or Dragon Age 3, where it's like every fantasy RPG is becoming open world now?
It's weird.
Like, it's something that's like, I don't know, like, I'm just so skeptical of Zelda games, because I feel like every time I've played a Zelda game that is not Ocarina of Time or Link to the Past, I've just been tremendously disappointed. So
you're also, though, somewhat in the minority on that, because
I'm not
Zelda
necessarily
games,
like, there are a lot of people that are.
There are a lot of
my
people
boat too.
There are a lot of people, but Zelda is still a high selling franchise.
Yeah, that's
for
true. But
Nintendo.
You know, like,
they're hugely acclaimed every time they come out.
Yeah.
By most of the gaming press,
but not all of them. Like, I'm saying, like, I'm nowhere near alone in that position.
You are not alone. I'm not saying you're alone, but Zelda is the thing that could, if anything at this point could save the Wii U, it could be Zelda. And this is what I want to talk about here, is that I know it is probably not feasible from a game development standpoint, but they fucking needed a major Zelda game, 20world Wii U, announced fully with gameplay demo here.
Next year. Like, they needed, like, that's
it is coming out next year. They said 2015 in the trailer.
They needed to show more of it.
Yes, they did.
If it was that far along, like, they needed more of a trailer than
they did. And, you know, it's a thing throughout this conference where I thought they announced a lot of somewhat interesting games, but, like, you know, they talked about Miyamoto is developing a new Star Fox game. And it's kind of it's Star Fox in the traditional sense of you're flying your ship and everything. It's not Star Fox Zelda, whatever that game was. Star Fox Adventures on Dinosaur Island or whatever. But it is using the gamepad and whatnot, and that sounds cool. But again, that's 2015, and it seems like it's barely into development. So Nintendo announced a lot of interesting stuff here. But my question is the Wii U going to be around long enough for these games to come out? I mean,
it's going to be around, but it's not going to have a significant enough player base for it to, like, make a big impact, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's weird in that sense. I mean, even stuff like, you know, Yoshi's Woolly World and stuff like that. And
that's not going to push consoles.
No, but even if it did, that's 2015. I don't think they've announced a date for Captain Toad Treasure Tracker and things like that.
Also a game. That's not going to sell consoles.
No, it's not. Bayonetta 2 still doesn't have any kind of release date. You know, that kind of thing.
Bayonetta 2 could actually sell consoles in terms of, like, that Bayonetta is a really popular...
Yeah.
Like, the people who like that game really like that game.
So, it's weird. I think Nintendo showed a lot of games I would enjoy playing, but this is how I kind of defined it on Twitter, is that they showed a lot... There was absolutely nothing at Nintendo's show that would make me buy a Wii U or want to buy a Wii U, but there was plenty of stuff that made me feel reasonably happy to have a Wii U because I could play some of these games.
Yeah, and for me, it's like... the one thing they showed that's like the thing that can interest me is Zelda, but the way in which they showed it was so clinical.
Yeah.
It's like it didn't like interest me almost at all. Like I would rather have you have shown me like a gameplay demo or something. Like there was like a little bit of like some weird monster shooting a laser at you at the very end, but it was like so brief. It gave me I had no sense of what the game actually was. Because it's that, it's that old rule, show, don't tell. Like, you just literally just sat down, and it was like the EA press conference. That's exactly what it reminded me of. It's like, I don't want to watch a developer, listen to him talk to me about his game. I want that developer to just show me the fucking game, and I think that would be a much more compelling setup,
Yeah.
But we didn't talk about the big reveal, the big thing coming out of E3 is Mario Party 10.
Yeah.
New Mario Party X.
The only big... it's not spelled with X. That's too bad.
I know, but it should be.
Yeah.
It should be.
It's the big change this time is that Bowser is a playable character, and you play as him on the gamepad, and it's asynchronous, so there's 5 players in the Mario Party now. So as you said, instead of 3-on-1, we can have 4-on-1.
Yeah, because it was like they showed all these mini games of like Bowser working against the main characters, and it's like, that's what... half the fucking minigames were already. How did you not remember that's what like the 3v1 games are in Mario Party?
Yeah.
One of the players working against the other ones.
My biggest disappointment looking at Mario Party 10 is that obviously you have not played Mario Party 9.
The last Mario Party I played was like 4.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe? Like the first one on GameCube, I guess.
Right. I've played 9 a little bit, and it's what they did. They made this big change with 9 that I respect the desire to kind of innovate on the formula, but I don't think it was fully successful, where you and all the other players are in one car together, and the courses are constructed like, tracks and whatnot, and your one roll determines how far everybody moves. So it was interesting. Like, it's not bad. I would not call Mario Party 9 bad or that idea bad. It was something that kind of shook up the formula a little bit, but I also thought it made it a little less dynamic and chaotic than Mario Party was known for being, and I wish they would go back to something a little more traditional with 10. I mean, honestly, I've played most of the titles in this series at least a little bit, and I think since 4 was the last traditional Mario Party where you had your items and stuff, since then they've gotten rid of items and all this other stuff, and it's just gotten so far away from what made it fun, and it's become such a simpler, diluted version of itself. I wish, if they announced Mario Party 10 was like they were going back all in on stuff, and it was like more traditional, like those older ones, but bigger and using the power of the Wii U and that kind of stuff. Because it also graphically looked like a Wii game. I mean, and every other trailer we were looking at, like Zelda, that looked impressive.
Really good looking.
And I thought the Smash Bros. Footage, it looks really good. I know the Wii U can do good stuff. I've played Mario Kart 8. It's got power hidden in there somewhere. Mario Party 10 did not look like it was tapping into it, which is too bad.
Yeah.
So the thing is with Nintendo here, again, I think this was a better showing than I expected, just in terms of they had more new games and giving some other characters games and whatnot. They were trying to use more of their catalog, but they needed something big here.
Yeah, it's like, for me, I just look at that and it just looks, to me as someone who's not a big fan of Nintendo, has not been for a very long time, it just looks like a Nintendo announcement in terms of like, you got Smash Brothers games. Like, again, it's not... I mean, you're right that they did kind of expand which characters are getting their games this year, and that you have a Kirby game and you have a Yoshi game, but it's like, those are still characters that have had plenty of games. They are the same Nintendo characters that are getting the same fucking games. It's not... I want Nintendo to have something new. Until they have something actually new, I can't get invested in what they're doing. I can't be interested, because it's like, it has been the same fucking franchises for like 15 years now.
No, you're right. And
it's crazy.
And that's what I'm saying, is that I think that the problem was they were underusing their own catalog since the launch of the Wii U. So this at least seemed like an attempt to try to make more out of what they have, but they need to go beyond that. That's what I was kind of saying. And I think they needed to do one of 3 things at this conference to make a splash. And they did not make a splash. They needed to do one of 3 things. The first and most obvious one was big new Zelda game coming out this year or sometime next year, but with a big reveal here.
Yeah.
They didn't do any of that. That needed to happen, or that was one of the things that maybe needed to happen. Second thing is, as you say, some kind of new IP that looks exciting and everyone could get on board with and looks fun, and they could show a big demo for, and hopefully would be coming out this year, because Wii U does not have time to waste right now.
Yeah.
Or I think the third thing, they needed to just go all out on their fucking catalog and do something like, next week we are putting up every fucking game we've ever put out on NES, SNES, N64 and GameCube, and they're in the Virtual Console, and you can play them now, or something like a subscription service like Nintendo Netflix, where they have all their games, and you do $10 a month, and you can play their stuff. They need to leverage something they have. The thing they have right now, and this would not take a lot of work, is they've got their back catalog. Put the back catalog out. Why is it not out on Wii U? There's like 20 games in their Virtual Console on Wii U. And the thing is, I love how they do Virtual Console on Wii U. It's really cool. It's got fucking save states. That's neat. Yeah. Stuff like that is cool. You can play it on your gamepad and things like that. So it's a neat idea. It runs well. But they're not, it's only got NES and SNES. Where's N64? Where's GameCube? They announced that they're putting out that GameCube USB adapter we talked about. Yeah. It's going to cost $20. It's coming out. It's coming out in whenever Wii U Smash Bros comes out. Why not announce with that we're putting out 50 GameCube games or something? They need something as a stopgap, and they didn't announce nothing made a splash. They need to do one of those three things. They didn't do any of them.
I don't think you're giving enough credit to Palutena, the goddess from Kid Icarus, because she's going to be a real blast to play on Super Smash Bros. For the 3DS and Wii U.
All right, well. I don't know if Sony or Microsoft is the winner of this E3, but Nintendo continues to be the loser.
Yeah, and it's like, Nintendo's just like, they put themselves into a very hard position, but it's like, if the most exciting thing for your press conference is you talking to me about a new Zelda game, it's like, dude, like, I don't know, I can't get myself invested in Zelda again. I can't do it.
And even if you can, I mean... They need people like you, Sean. They need people who have gone out to come back
exactly.
in.
They need to bring me back in because it's just like, remember when I was a kid, Ocarina of Time, and it still is. It's one of my absolute favorite games. I hate that I can't be invested in the Zelda game, but I can't because I feel like they've never lived up to that original game. They've made, like, most of the Zelda games since then have been good, but it's like they have this thing to their design where every time I play them, I feel like I should just be playing Ocarina of Time because this game doesn't do anything better than it.
Yeah. But, my big disappointment of E3 so far is that none of these companies, none of the first parties, and not even the third parties, which wouldn't even make sense, but no one at their press conference spent any time talking about Persona games.
Exactly.
And there's so many coming out.
Which it's baffling because it's like, no other video game really matters.
Right.
It's like Persona games are the only freaking video games as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted Sony to talk more about PS Vita. You know how they could have done that?
Yeah,
big on-stage demo for Persona 4 Dancing All Night.
Yeah, like, get someone, like, leverage that technology for, like, those Hatsune Miku conferences, or, like, concerts, and fucking have a holographic Rise dancing and singing some fucking Nevermore or something.
That would be such a great thing to pull on the gaming press.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of whom have never heard of Persona.
It's like all the people there who have played Persona 4 would go fucking crazy.
Yes, they would. And, Nintendo didn't spend 30 minutes demoing Persona Q. Why not?
Yeah, huge mistake. Like, if they had done that, that would have been the most interesting thing to me personally in their whole fucking conference. Which I know I just spent a whole lot of time saying how they need something new. But it's like, if you're going to get something old, you might as well get something old that's like this thing that is part of, like, the greatest game ever. So,
all right, so Sean, let's sign off. Before we do, any other thoughts on E3 so far that you want to give?
Video games are weird.
How weird? How so?
Like, I saw a guy doing push-ups on a stage, and then on a virtual screen they put an elephant on his back, and then 2 minutes later I watched a story about a dog in World War I narrate his experiences of losing every human he fell in love with.
Is that E3 in a nutshell for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Weird.